Okay, from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, a show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, Darren Patterson.
And I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
John Trumbull, happy birthday, sir!
Thank you very much, Darren Patterson. Yeah, thank you for doing that intro. That was nice. That was almost Shatnerian.
I go when in doubt, I go Shatner.
Yeah, no, that's just a good policy for life, I find.
Yeah, I find like whenever I'm in times of trouble, William Shatner
comes to me, speaking words of wisdom.
Yes,
let it be.
Let it be.
Yeah,
let it be. Let it be.
We amuse ourselves.
Oh, we're delightful, aren't we, listeners?
We really are. We're a delight. Tell your friends.
Yes, exactly. Leave a review. 5 stars.
Pretty good podcast. They seem really taken with themselves, though.
That's silly. But happy birthday, sir. This is your birthday episode we're doing right here.
Thank you. Yes. It was, as you know, today, and as this episode drops tomorrow, we're still like a couple days away from my birthday. My birthday is August 1st. So this is happening this coming Thursday. And I don't know. Yeah, I was going back and forth because, we've been doing this podcast for a few years now. It's going on 6 years.
Woo!
And, for our birthday shows, we always try to pick out a fun movie that's usually like an old favorite to do. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I run through like a lot of my favorites for my birthday shows already. And then it came to me that we haven't done High Fidelity yet. And absolutely a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I feel like this movie, we've talked about it, like it's popped up on a couple episodes here and there.
Yeah, probably when we talked about Grosse Point Blank.
Yes.
And, we did that other John Cusack movie that Joan Cusack's also in, War Incorporated. I mean, they've done a lot of movies together. I was just reading on IMDb trivia. They've done something like 8 movies together.
Damn.
Yeah. So, I mean, because they're both awesome.
They're both awesome. They're both related to each other. And it's always cool. And they do have very good chemistry together. I mean, of course, that comes with being a blood relative with somebody, but
I don't know. It doesn't even always come with being a blood relative.
All right, yeah, maybe sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean, Luke and Owen Wilson have good chemistry together.
They are great. They are another great example of siblings who have great on-screen chemistry. Yeah, I mean, hopefully if you have a good relationship with your sibling, that translates into on-screen chemistry. And this movie is an old favorite, and there are a number of reasons for that. I'll get into that later in the podcast. I think it makes more sense for me to talk about that after we do our movie review and summary sort of thing.
Absolutely. So this movie came out March 31st in the year 2000.
Oh, so it came out in the future. Wow.
Yes, okay. I know. Exactly. Directed by Stephen Frears. Screenplay written by D.V. DeVincentis, Steve Pink, John Cusack, and Scott Rosenberg, based on the book by Nick Hornsby, a little book called High Fidelity.
Yeah, and that, if the names of those screenwriters sound familiar, it's because that's also the screenwriting team that wrote Grosse Point Blank, another super cool movie with John Cusack that we've covered on this podcast.
Yes, another fantastic film. This film had a budget of $30 million, made about $47.1 million. Yeah, and I remember this film being kind of a modest hit, I guess you could say. I mean, Cusack got nominated for a Golden Globe for it.
Oh, cool.
And yeah. But I remember it was one of those films. It wasn't a huge blockbuster, but the people that liked it really liked it. It was like one of those kind of.
Yeah, it's become a cult film, I would say, and
I would say.
Yeah, I think it's remembered, and it's remembered well, and I think it holds up well. I loved it from first sight because it really spoke to where I was in my life at the time. Did you see this in its original theatrical run?
I'm trying to think. I
review it for the college paper, maybe.
Yeah, I might have seen it for the college. I forget if I saw it for the college paper or I just rented it when it came out on DVD. Because, this would have come out around the same time I was in college, so there was a good chance I saw a screening for it, but I don't recall. But either way, I remember watching it and liking it, but I think as I got older and revisited it, I liked it a little bit more and more.
Yeah.
And I also like after watching this film again, like it kind of reminded me of on the last episode with the Axel Foley episode when we had Brandon Collins on, and he
Hmm.
mentioned the TV show the TV show reboot High Fidelity that came on
Yeah,
Hulu.
that was. I think we talked about that a bit, but it was after we stopped recording. So
Right. Oh,
we
right.
should
Yes.
probably recap that conversation a little bit for the
Right.
people because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Well,
think that ended up as part of the episode.
oh shit. All right. Well, yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, Brandon Collins said, "Oh yeah, you should watch the TV show." And then, but you were, and then you mentioned like you didn't know about the TV show because you thought
No, no, I knew about the TV show. I did watch the trailer when the TV show came out, but
right,
um,
a little
I was,
hesitant.
I was hesitant. That's a good way to put it. I was hesitant to watch it just because, um, and I want to phrase this just right because I don't want to make it sound like oh they switched genders and now it's stupid.
Oh, it's
High
all
Fidelity
woke.
got all woke.
Yeah.
There's a DEI hire, and that's all stupid bullshit. Um, I think for me in this instance, it didn't. I have trouble with the idea of switching the genders of the main character because, like the movie High Fidelity, it's about John Cusack. He stars as Rob Gordon. He's an owner of a record store, and he goes through a breakup, and that kind of forces him to examine all his previous relationships, all his previous top five breakups over the course of the movie, and all that. And then the TV show, which they did on, I forget which streaming service it was
It was
on.
Hulu.
It was on Hulu. Thank you. Um, and they reversed the genders on that. So I don't even know what the name of the new character was. Did you watch the TV show or no?
I did not. I was gonna maybe
Okay.
watch the first episode before we recorded, but I just never didn't get around to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but but yeah, I remember you basically saying like this. The movie is kind of more of a guy's movie, like it's kind of geared
Well,
towards
yeah,
just because it's told through a men's perspective. And I after rewatching it,
yeah.
I do agree with you. This is like I feel more guys will more
Mhm.
be in sync with this movie than
Yeah, because
the ladies.
I do think that men and women react to breakups differently, and women can be much more pragmatic about it.
Yeah.
And guys, like one of the things I love about this movie is the way it draws these parallels between the obsessiveness of relationships and the obsessiveness of collecting, which I relate to in a big way because I'm not like as big of a music person as the people in this movie, but I am like a comic book person, so I can certainly understand that obsession and the possessiveness of collecting and just drawing that the parallel between that and the obsessiveness and the possessiveness of relationships, I think was genius, and that's something that the original Nick Hornby novel did.
Right. Yeah, like
Um,
if you're not a music nerd, I think this will appeal to anybody who's maybe like a comic book nerd or
mhm,
a
mhm.
movie nerd or somebody collects
Yeah,
like Criterion DVDs or something like that. Like if you're like the person that collects and is sort of obsesses over things like action figure or whatever, I think you'll
yeah. I mean, you could
connect
do it
with it.
with most anything. You could do it with. I'm sure, like, there's a subsection of stamp collectors or whatever. Whatever the
Wow.
hobby is. I mean, there probably is. I don't know. I don't hang with
Yeah.
a lot of stamp collectors, but
Yeah, no, I'm sure there is. Stamp
yeah,
collectors, bird watchers, coin collectors. I'm
yeah.
sure
I
there's
think any sort of hobby or enthusiast, you have like the people who are really obsessive about it and take it too far, and this movie can be like a bit of a wake-up call. You want to be like, oh, I don't want to be like this person. um,
yeah,
I
no.
want to have, like, I want to touch grass, I want to be in touch with the real world. So yeah, I had trouble with the TV show of seeing like a woman get this obsessive and this nutty about it. I'm not saying it can never happen. And, I'm not even as hardcore about like, oh no, I never want to see this. I'm open to seeing it, I guess. I could check it out. Maybe it's wonderful. Maybe I'm missing out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely be like because like that is something that kind of happens in media now where they just kind of do the swap gender role thing of something
Hmm.
and give it the name of the original thing it's
Yeah.
spoofing, but it's nothing like the original thing that they're
Yeah.
doing.
Like, I mean, they just recently did a remake of Time Bandits. And I have a big affection for the original movie. And I watched the trailer and I was just like, why did we need a remake of Time Bandits? What's wrong with the original Time Bandits?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, sometimes it works great. Sometimes it's just a gimmick. And I guess for the High Fidelity, after I watched the trailer, I was like, this seems kind of more like a gimmick.
Yeah, like sometimes you can tell that sometimes like a writer or an artist just kind of has their own vision about something, but they know maybe no one will buy it or won't get as
Hmm.
many eyes on it. But if you just name it after an old property that people are familiar with, more people are will be likely to like, you know,
Hmm.
retweet it or share it on social media, and like more people will be more
Yeah,
likely to buy it just because like, oh,
even if
familiarity.
you're expressing outrage about it or something like that. And
Yeah,
I try not to be like so close minded of like, oh, they changed it, now it sucks. Yeah, but everybody has their own things about it. So yeah, I
yeah.
don't know. I I feel confident in saying that even if the TV show is wonderful, I probably wouldn't love it as much as I do the movie and the original book because
Yeah, because, like, in the movie, there are 2 things that, like, after I watched it, after I watched this movie, I was like, "Oh, that I could see how that could totally turn off a female audience." So that's why what like,
hmm
after I watched it, like, in my mind, I was like, "Oh, I think John was right. This is kind of a more of a guy's movie." Because there's 2 things that Rob does that's like, "Oh, women would might just walk out the theater after seeing that."
yeah yeah
Because Rob isn't portrayed as, like, I mean, he's a flawed guy. I'll just say.
this is a amazing thing about this movie is my relationship to this movie has like really changed over time because it's been over 24 years since I first saw this movie in 2000 in early 2000.
Right.
And the movie of course hasn't changed. There hasn't been like a new cut of it or anything like that. It's the exact same movie that I saw, but each time I revisit it, Rob seems a little like more and more of an asshole to me each time.
Right?
And you realize like what an unreliable narrator he is about certain things. And wow. And like if you asked me after I watched this movie in 2000, I would have been like, oh, Rob's great. There's he's great. He's played by John Cusack. He's charming. He's this and he's that. And now I'm looking at it as a nearly 52-year-old man, and I'm just like, Rob is fucking awful for a
He
lot of this movie.
he does,
Um,
like there's, like, maybe 2 or 3 things in here he does in the movie where I'm like, "Oh, what a piece of shit."
yeah, yeah,
But, I mean,
and
but that's good, though. That means I'm sure I'm growing as I get older. I kinda felt the same
mhm.
way about another movie I really loved back in the day, 500 Days of Summer,
Oh yeah,
where,
sure.
like, I really liked that movie quite a bit, and when I
Hmm.
first saw it, I was like, "Oh, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, he's the heartbroken guy who, like,
Hmm.
Summer did him dirty." But then after I watched it a couple times as I got older, I was like, well, no, he kind of did a few things where it's maybe wasn't like
Yeah,
he could
and
maybe could have
Joseph
grown.
Gordon-Levitt, I've seen him give an interview where he's like, "Yeah, my character in that movie is not all that great of a person. He does all this crappy stuff, and yeah, take a look at it again. He's not great."
Yeah, but I mean, but then again, like yeah, but that's something you'd have to see if you were like sort of a person that's willing to look inside yourself and
Hmm.
maybe be a little bit more reflective
Yeah.
and kind of take other people's feelings into consideration. Where like, oh yeah, that wasn't that like we do things in the moment because we're all have all these emotions coming through us
Hmm.
that we think we're doing the right thing, like, but after some time goes by, like we find out maybe we weren't as righteous as we thought we were, just but we did it because it felt
Yeah.
right in the moment because we were just feeling all these emotions. We didn't know how to express them healthily, and
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
everybody is the hero of their own story to a degree, and
yes,
I think a lot of this movie is about Rob learning more empathy and to learning how to be less of a self centered shit,
yeah,
which is really like you. If you've seen this movie a few times, you realize like yeah, a lot of his problems are of his own making. He paints himself as a victim for most of the movie, but it's like you dug your own hole here a lot of times, Rob, and
yeah, yeah.
and
Like I mean, like
we'll
even
get into it.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, even in the opening, which actually is another thing I like about this movie,
Mhm.
the way he breaks the fourth wall and talks directly to the camera throughout
Yeah,
all of this film. I thought that was a really interesting
yeah, because
narration device.
the original book from Nick Hornby, which I read the book about like I think the summer after I saw the movie, I think it was like the summer of 2001. I was on vacation with family down in Florida. There was like a used bookstore, and like I saw a copy of the book, and I was like, "Hey, I really like this movie. I'm gonna read the book." And the book really spoke to me too. And for a while there, I was rereading the book about once a year, and I finally reached a point where I had to stop because I had the book practically memorized.
Oh, wow.
um, but there were probably like 4 or 5 years where I was reading that book about once a year. That obsession kicking in again.
Oh, wow.
um, and the book is told in first person from the character of Rob. He's Rob Fleming in the book instead of Rob Gordon. I don't know why they changed the name. The big difference is the book. The movie takes place in Chicago. The original book takes place in England. Yeah, Rob lives in London in the book
Oh,
because Nick Hornby is a British gentleman. Um,
bloody hell.
yeah, and but like when John Cusack read the book, he said I was kind of when I read the book, I was sort of casting places in Chicago in my head because John Cusack is from the Chicago area. So he kind of translated into his own local idiom, and I find that fascinating that like because in interviews with Nick Hornby were people were like, well, what's your book about? And Nick Hornby was like, well, it's about England, and to him it was like a sort of a quintessential English story, and but he approved the change for the movie version, and yeah, so that I find really interesting.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. Like when he talks to the camera, and he,
Hmm.
I mean, in the very beginning of the movie, where he kind of describes the top five most memorable breakups, and like he's talking about this as he's going through a breakup because his
Right.
the woman he lives with, Laura,
Hmm.
is just broke up with him like literally minutes ago.
Yeah, it's the movie starts like right after they've broken up, and Rob is like talking to the camera right from the top, and he says, "What came first, the music or the misery?" And he talks about how people worry about kids with guns and all this. Nobody worries about kids listening to thousands, literally thousands of songs about heartbreak and loneliness, and
Mm.
that can screw up a person. That can really affect the way you think. Um, and
Yeah.
and so much of the book is because the book is told in the first person, and that's really the meat of the book. The heart of the book is Rob going off on these half rants, half soliloquies about this stuff, just speaking directly to the reader. So I think it was a great choice to make John Cusack narrate much of the movie to the camera, and you don't get sick of it in the movie, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, like the way it's done, it's like really interesting. Like you really get to
Hmm.
hear this guy's sort of insights and thoughts, but it doesn't come across as him sort of being too, I guess, what's the word?
Whiny,
Yeah, whiny. He's just kind of doing it matter of factly, and like, yeah, he got his
yeah.
heart broken by.
I mean, he is a self pitying character. He very
Yes,
much
yes.
is that. Um, but I think John Cusack is just a generally very likable, charismatic performer. So you don't really get tired of spending time with him and having him narrate it. And yeah, they pull it off really well. They modulate it wonderfully in the movie.
Yeah, like I mean, at first he talks about his first girlfriend when he was like 6 or 7, but
Hmm.
their relationship only lasted 6 hours because they were just kind of.
He was 14. He was
He was
14. They were in
14.
junior
Oh,
high.
right.
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah.
All right.
They had a relationship that lasted for 6 hours, 2 day, the 2 hours after school for 3 days. Like he'd get together with his girl Allison Ashmore, and they just made out uh, between school and the Rockford Files, which
Wow.
I love that detail. And then like the fourth day, he goes to make out with her again, and she's making out with another boy. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So it's what is the other boy's name? I have it written down later on. Kevin Bannister.
Yes.
So yeah, so so he gets dumped without ever actually getting dumped, and that kind of like forms the template for all his relationships since.
Right. Because then after that, we see him in high school with this girl named Penny,
Hmm.
and like they really liked each other, but
Hmm.
she wouldn't let him go all the way, so
Right.
he dumps her, and then he
Yeah.
finds out like literally like maybe a week or so later, like she goes out with this other guy, Chris, and he got all the way with her, and that bummed him
Yeah,
out.
yeah. He finds out that she hooked up with this girl after he broke up. So he's like, "Wait, why did this girl didn't even want me to get to second base with her?" Um, and so I ended it because I was a high school student. What I wanted was sex. And then he's like, "Well, why did she want to sleep with him and not me?" And this is like, a question that he's lived with later on. So
Right.
he's gradually bringing us up to speed on his romantic history throughout the movie. We also find out about Rob's life. He runs a record store called Championship Vinyl.
Right. And it's
He's
in a
got
neighborhood of Chicago that attracts the bare minimum of window shoppers.
yes, yeah, because he has this weird sort of pride in not being too popular and not being too mainstream.
Which, yeah, like
He's
that.
got that snobbery to him.
Yeah, that's very much like a number of record store owners and whatnot
Hmm.
that like I remember going to back in the day.
Yeah.
Where like that's actually kind of one of the things like I really gravitated to like when back in the day when I used to like, go into music shops and whatnot all the time. Like I'd always kind of be a little nervous because like I always wondered if the people behind the counter were like judging me and my taste of music and whatnot.
Right, right. Yeah, I get
Like
that. I get that.
if
Yeah.
I was like, "Hey,
You
do you have the new Fleetwood Mac?" And they'd be like, "Oh God,"
yeah,
or something like that.
Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, yeah. You want them to approve your choices, even though it's a weird thing. It's a
I
weird
want them
thing.
to think I'm cool here at
I
other.
want, please like me.
Yeah, please other
Please like
music.
me, store clerk that I'm never going to interact with again.
Yeah, it's like that. You ever go to that music store, Other Music, that was in the Village back in the day?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. There's a documentary out on it, but it was a small store called Other Music. It was like literally like across the street from the Tower Records
Uh huh.
in Manhattan, and it was like this really small store that like specialized in like indie music and like world music, and basically like all the music that wasn't in the mainstream. So like you really had to be like basically the type of music that people who would say like, "Oh, I love this band," but you probably never heard of them would be into.
Yeah.
And
I
like,
think my equivalent of that was Kim's Video in
oh,
St. Mark's Place. Did you
yes,
ever go there?
yes, I
Kim's
did go there.
Video, yeah, was awesome. If you were a New Yorker or if you went into the city a lot, like we did back in the day, Kim's Video, it had music and videotapes, as you might suspect from the name, and DVDs. It was like before the Blu-ray revolution. I think didn't they close down a number of years back?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're around anymore. But Kim's Video was fucking amazing because you could find all sorts of obscure stuff, and if
Mm.
you're a big movie buff, they had everything from the Criterion Collection, and
Ooh,
yeah,
nice. And
yeah,
but yeah, like if you also want to know about like other music, there's a documentary on it that's actually I liked quite a bit. They actually showed
hmm
how like a lot of music nerds like love going in there and how some people were intimidated to go in there. Like they interviewed Jason Schwartzman and he was like,
oh
"Yeah."
wow,
He was like, "Yeah, I never went in there because like I was so afraid." And they had like some in-store performances, like Vampire Weekend performed it before anybody knew who they
oh
were.
wow, oh wow.
The National, Apples in Stereo. So check out that doc if you can. It's really good.
Oh,
It's
is the
streaming.
doc just called Other Music or?
Yeah, it's streaming somewhere. It's out there.
Okay, all right, all right.
But
Oh,
yeah, Championship Vinyl. It's this little record store that Rob
right,
owns, and the people that work there are Dick and Barry.
right.
We get to meet them. We see like Dick is kind of like a soft spoken type
Hmm.
of music hipster, whereas
Right,
played by Todd Luiso,
right.
and
Yeah.
Barry is of course the loud, brash music aficionado played by the great Jack Black.
Jack Black. And Jack Black was pretty much an unknown when this movie came out. Um, I don't think I was really conscious of who Jack Black was at this point. I think the Tenacious D TV show on HBO had already run by this point, but
Yeah,
but
that's where I knew him from. Like I knew him
mhm,
because like of course I used to love the what was it the Mr. Show, and
right.
then I would always see those little Tenacious D clips afterwards. And I was like, oh, who's that
Yeah,
guy?
the
He's
little
really funny.
interstitials. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I didn't have HBO, so that passed me by. And I now realize I had seen Jack Black in other movies, like he's in Bob Roberts, Tim
Yes.
Robbins movie about the political candidate, and which again we also covered on this podcast a number of years ago. Look that up. Very topical right now.
Mm. Oh boy.
uh, and yeah, but Jack Black, he looks very different in that movie because his head is a very close cropped hairdo. He's practically a skinhead in that movie. And here he's like, musical hipster. He's got the little soul patch. He's got longer hair, and
Yeah.
and
Like
and this is like his star making performance. This is like the quintessential Jack Black
yeah.
performance.
I would say so. I mean, I'm looking at his filmography before this movie. He's done
Mm-hmm.
movies I've heard of, but they're all like small parts. Like he has a small part
Right.
in Demolition Man and
Mm-hmm.
Waterworld,
Right.
Cable Guy.
He's in Mars Attacks.
He is in Mars Attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would say High Fidelity was his like the one where everybody was like, "Oh, who's that guy?"
Who's that guy? And then suddenly he becomes like a bankable lead for a movie, and he's able to do things like School of Rock, and
Yeah, the School of Rock is the one that put him in like the mainstream, I'd say.
yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
So I mean, but it's a perfect part for Jack Black. Apparently, they wrote the part in the movie for him. I mean, it's a part in the book as well, of course. But
Mhm.
and you kind of realize, like, yeah, like you said, Jack Black, Barry, he's very loud, he's very brash, and he's the type of person who he's very opinionated, and he will just inundate you with his opinions.
Yeah, like
He's
yeah, because we see like as Dick and Rob are the first ones in the store. Like Dick is
Mhm.
playing the new Belle and Sebastian,
Right,
and like Barry like literally just bursts into the store. He
right,
said, "What the fuck is that shit playing?" It's like, "Oh, this new Belle
yeah,
and Sebastian," and he immediately just throws out the tape and
right.
puts in Katrina in the Waves, "Walking on Sunshine."
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Walking on
which,
sunshine.
if you've and this is like the day after Rob's breakout. So he's like, I don't want to hear fucking Walking on Sunshine. It does not fit my mood. He's like, I just want to listen to something I can ignore. And Barry's like, well, why'd you want to do like, listen to your sad bastard music? This is my Monday morning mixtape. And and then Barry starts telling the other two musical nerds like what else is on his mixtape, and Dick like expresses a preference for another group's cover of Little Latin Loopy Lou.
Yeah,
He's
is that
like,
Mitch Ryder version?
yeah, and Jack Black's like bullshit, and Rob, because he's marginally more sane than these other two, he says like, how can it be bullshit to state a preference, which it struck me during this rewatch. I was like, Barry would totally be an angry internet commenter today.
Oh my
Uh,
god, forget about
yeah,
he is Twitter
he is Twitter. Barry is Twitter incarnate.
because we refuse to call it X.
Yes, yes. So yeah, is because it's just like that. The worst people that you run into online, where they will just be like, this is my opinion and it is objectively true, and if you don't agree with me, you're wrong, and they're just exhausting to talk to.
Yeah, what you like is wrong. What I
Right,
like is right.
right, and I
Uh,
try really hard not to be that person.
trying, man.
I try to be more like, oh, okay, that's cool that you like that thing. It's not my thing, but I love that you enjoy it. Or if you like, you just told me about the other music doc, which I hadn't heard of, and I don't think I've even heard that story. And I'm like, oh, tell me about it. Am I missing out? I It's like they say in Ted Lasso: be curious, not judgmental.
There you go. There you go.
That's just such a good guide to life. Be curious and not judgmental. And
Yeah,
Barry is judgmental up the wazoo. Dick is judgmental too, but he is a quiet judgmental.
yeah, absolutely.
And like there's a moment where Dick, he's bonding with a customer in the store, played by Sarah Gilbert,
Yeah,
and he's like,
no.
and they're talking about Green Day, and he's like, well, in my mind, Green Day is influenced by these two groups. The first is the Clash, and Sarah Gilbert says the Clash at the same time Dick does, and he just goes, correct. And I'm just like, why is it? We're talking about music. We're talking about opinions. It's
I
correct.
I
It's like
mean, yeah.
and he ends up dating her, but it's like she can't date him until she passes his little geek test,
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of geeks out there like that where
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I can't see somebody who loves Star Wars dating somebody who's like indifferent to Star Wars or something like that. Just
Hmm.
because like in the back of their minds they're like, well, this really bothers me that you don't like the thing that I like as much as I like it, or
Yeah.
have a different you don't believe or think the same
Right.
things I think about certain things or
Oh, you like the prequels? Oh, ugh, yeah.
yes.
Um, yeah.
Swipe left.
And I mean, there's a thing that Cusack says at one point in the movie. He's like, yeah, at one point we agreed that it's what you like, not what you're like, that is more important. And he's like, movies, TV shows, music, these things matter. Call me shallow if you want. It's the fucking truth. And I think there is a certain amount of truth to that
There
because,
is, yeah.
like, pop culture, a great way to bond with people.
Yeah. And I mean I think also a lot of people have like strong connections to certain pieces of media because I mean
Hmm.
a lot of us sort of engage with it, just trying to make sense of ourselves and lives. Like a lot of times
Yeah.
we'll hear an album or a song at a certain point in our lives that really connects to us and maybe helps us understand ourselves a little bit better, and like it sort of
Yeah.
becomes part of who we are and helps us make us who we are. So like if we find out somebody doesn't like that certain piece of media, it's like they're sort of rejecting us personally in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to put it. I mean, ostensibly this podcast is about Saturday Night Live and all that.
Yep.
We didn't want to take the summers off every single year, so we decided to expand it out into watching movies starring SNL alums like Joan Cusack. And so I think broadly this podcast is more about media and how we engage with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we are coming to something for the first time years after the fact. A lot of times we're revisiting old favorites like this one, and sometimes we're seeing something brand new. And I love, especially with the media I love examining it, and I love, like, turning it inside out and figuring out exactly why I like the stuff I do and why I dislike the stuff I do. And yeah, and that's what I love about doing this podcast is it gives me a chance to examine all that stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely like when you revisit old stuff like this and you're
Hmm.
like, "Oh wow, this is why this piece of media stuck with me because like it really helped me through a tough time or it
Hmm.
helped me see things from a certain perspective I never thought of before or it
Right.
just really kind of helped build the way I think and like maybe helped install some values in me or it just helped
Hmm.
me be the person I am now." It's
Yeah, yeah,
pretty interesting.
100%, 100%. And yeah, this movie and this book, it definitely affected and helped shape who I am as a person,
Oh wow.
100%. Um, okay, so back to the movie. Rob's third uh, big breakup in his all-time top five breakups. Rob makes a lot of top five lists.
Yes. That's a
His
running thing.
Yeah, that's a running thing. That's sort of the thread that ties this movie together. Charlie Nicholson, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones,
Woo!
who is the woman who Rob dated in college, and I think perfect casting because, like, if you dated Catherine Zeta-Jones in college, you would be totally obsessed with that fact for the next 2 decades of your life.
I mean, Hubba Hubba
Yeah,
and,
she's. I mean, she is the type of woman that you do not forget, and that you would be like, oh my god, yes,
yes,
um,
Humana Humana and Awooga.
yes. And he talks about how he felt he never got comfortable in the relationship because he felt very out of his league. She was just too pretty. She was too smart. She was too much for him. And he says, like, I learned that I'm a middleweight. You got to punch your weight. And he's
Yeah.
like, I didn't really match with Charlie. So.
Yeah, and, yeah, it's like that, and he of course, he was, worried about his abilities as a lover
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
bedroom, and of course, all those things, all the insecurity kinda came to the surface, so,
Hmm.
she did end up kinda leaving him for this other guy
Yeah, he
named
says
Marco.
yeah, he says I was worried that she was going to leave me for one of her art school friends, which is like exactly what happened. And you realize, especially if you've seen the movie before, or you read the book before, it's like, well, yeah, she left you because you were so insecure about it. You
Yes.
weren't like, oh, if she's dating me, she must see something in me, and that must mean that I'm a better person than I think I am. It's all his, like, his low self esteem and his self loathing kind of coming out in the relationship.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's like a self-fulfilling, prophecy type of thing.
Yeah, and we see John Cusack in the rain, agonizing over his relationship, which, if you've seen Say Anything, that is a thing that he has done before.
Mm. Yes, I thought
and
of that
he's
too.
and he says he's literally yelling on the street, "Charlie, you fucking bitch, let's work it out." Which that so wonderfully conveys the mixed emotions that you have after any breakup. You fucking bitch, let's work it out. That's
That's
hilarious.
that's how he expresses himself.
That's so hilarious.
Jesus.
And yeah, he spirals after his breakup with Charlie. He flunks out of school. He ends up working in a record store that he eventually owns. That's Championship Vinyl. And yeah, so he says, like, some people are obsessed with, like, the night their band opened for Nirvana. I was obsessed with Charlie. I never got over Charlie.
Mm.
So yeah, she left the biggest mark on him.
Ouch.
Um,
Yeah, then they get to number 4 on his list, Sarah.
Sarah Kendrew, played by Lily Taylor.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
so
another
basically,
indie darling. Yeah.
yes, indie darling Lily Taylor. Yeah, has she
hmm
still around? I haven't seen her in a
I
minute.
haven't seen her in anything in ages, and yeah, she's probably still working, and I've just missed what she's been doing. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not up to date with what Lily Taylor's done, but I believe she had worked with John Cusack before. I believe they were old friends, and that's why they were in this together.
Yeah, they were both in Say Anything.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah, Joe lies when he cries.
Right.
Um,
Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, but like she's like one of those, like I would say like her and like Ileana Douglas. Like for a while
hmm
in the '90s, they were like indie darlings. They were kind of everywhere, but like now
Yeah.
kind of don't see either one of them around.
I know Ileana Douglas has transitioned into writing.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
So I think she does more writing than acting these days. She wrote a book about movies in Connecticut, and I think that might even be the name of it, because I believe she's from the Connecticut area. So,
Oh, nice. Oh, I did not know that.
but Lily Taylor, no, I don't know. She's not been on my radar. But Rob and Sarah, they had both just been dumped, and so they hook up with each other to kind of, wallow in their misery together.
Misery loves company.
And Rob says only people of a certain disposition are terrified of being left alone for the rest of our lives at 26. We were of that deposition, which is again so wise. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
yeah. And I've been there. I was there when I was 26. I think so.
Yeah, no, it's that age where like everybody starts. I mean, like late 20s. That's when people start to sort of like
Get married or
get
get in long
married
term
and
relationships and
yeah,
settle down. Yeah,
settle down, stop their wild and crazy ways, and then you think, oh,
yeah.
am I going to be? Is this it? Am I going to be the person at the musical chairs game that doesn't get a chair? Type
It's
of
like
thing.
Chris Rock says, you don't want to be the old guy in the group.
Oof,
you
marron.
know yeah and so we know, like, 4 of the 5 big breakups. um we have a scene where Dick comes by Rob's apartment, and Rob, by the way, Rob's apartment is fucking amazing.
That's a great apartment. You see all those
That is a
records he had?
great, I know it's just a set, but it's an incredible apartment. He's got a bay window. It's very spacious. I'm just like, I would live in that apartment 100%. Wow, that's a great apartment. And apparently Rob can afford it on running this failing record store, because, like, his girlfriend Laura, who's a lawyer making 60 to 70K a year, she moves out, and Rob never expresses a worry about still paying the rent or anything. So I guess he's doing okay.
I guess, yeah.
I guess he's scraping by.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it was back when like rent wasn't as crazy, I guess.
True. Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, so Dick comes by to see Rob, and Rob is rearranging his record collection. And Dick tries to guess how Rob is rearranging. He's like, well, not alphabetically. And he says it like, oh, that's just too basic. You wouldn't be doing that. Not chronologically. And Rob goes, no, autobiographically, which is clinically insane. So he's like, so if I want to hear this particular Fleetwood Mac song, I have to remember that I bought it at age 16 for this girl, this particular girl, but I decided to keep it for myself instead.
Yeah,
Which
that's psychotic.
it's psychotic. So he is literally doing a filing system that only one person on the planet can understand. So you cannot find a record unless you are Rob Gordon in his apartment, which I mean,
Fantastic.
yeah, I totally get, you got to spend time like organizing and reorganizing your collection, and yeah, you have to maintain it. I got like a bunch of comics the other day, and I had to like log them on the app that I use to keep track of all this stuff, because you got to keep up with that stuff. So you know what you have and what you don't have, and you don't want to accidentally buy the same thing twice and all that stuff. But autobiographical arrangement is insane.
That's
The,
bonkers.
the man is spiraling.
Yeah. This is a cry for help.
It is a cry for help. It is 100% a cry for help. Um, and
Uh,
so,
yeah.
yeah, Rob goes out with Dick and Barry, or he meets up with them to see this musician, Marie DeSalle.
Played by Zoe Kravitz's mom, Lisa Bonet.
Yeah, Zoe Kravitz, of course, is the lead on the TV version of High Fidelity, which we have not seen. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, but before that, like,
mhm.
Rob did get a call from his mom,
Oh,
and
yes.
like he tells her that him and Laura broke up, and the
Yeah.
mom breaks down in tears, basically saying this always
Yeah. Yeah.
happens. Like, what as soon as they move in, something goes wrong and you guys break up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the mom is
Yeah.
a little distraught.
His mom is not like, oh, are you okay? I'm sorry that happened. She's just like, what is happening? Why is my son such a screw up? It's kind of big Jewish mother energy, I think.
Kinda.
Is what I feel like. I don't think Rob is supposed to be Jewish, but maybe, I guess Catholic mothers have a bit of that too.
Yeah.
Uh, but anyway,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So basically, like you said, like after the pep talk from mom,
Yeah.
Rob goes out and meets up with Dick and Barry and
Hmm.
sees Maria DeSalle sing, and they're all hypnotized by her because she's like sort of this sultry, siren.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's very exotic, and it's interesting in the book. Okay, like Dick describes her as like, oh, she's sort of Cheryl Crowish, and she's like this, like a post Partridge Family, pre L.A. Law Susan Day, but black. Um,
yeah, I was like, I don't even know what that means. What the
well, okay, here's the reason that description is kind of obscure. In the book, what makes Marie DeSalle exotic is she's American, which to
Oh.
an Englishman living in London, that is, like the most exotic thing imaginable is, and she is described as literally looking like a post Partridge Family, pre LA Law Susan Day. So
Ah.
when they're making it a movie, she has to be, the exotic, exciting, mysterious woman from a plot standpoint. But because Rob is now American, she can't, you can't just be like this other, blonde lady that he hooks up with, because that would just seem too much like he's finding someone that's like Laura. So they literally just take the description from the book and they add "but black" at the end, which is kind of hilarious if you read the book.
Yeah, okay. All right. That makes more sense now. I'm
So
surprised they didn't
that's,
just get like a British woman to play her. Like, just kind of
I
like, I
don't know,
mean,
I guess they didn't want the movie to be quite so lily white.
I guess so. You can get a black
You know,
British woman, right? They were around in the early aughts.
there are black British women that exist. Yes,
There you
that is
go.
true. That is
See,
true. I don't know.
breaking
It,
news.
it's also kind of funny that Lisa Bonet, she is totally imitating Lenny Kravitz, particularly when she's singing.
Yeah, yeah. Doing that
She is
little
doing like Lenny's moves, and I
like
mean,
like the swaying back and forth.
yeah, yeah. And I can't remember if she was still together with Lenny Kravitz at this point, or if they were already exes by this point. It probably doesn't matter, but
Yeah, but
but it's just like, it's like, write what you know. Actors, you use stuff from your own life. So, she was married to a rock star. Why not use some of his moves?
hey, why not? Yeah. So like she's up there singing Peter Frampton of all things, making it
Yeah.
sound like super sexy and
Baby, I love your way. Yeah.
baby, I love you way.
And Rob is like instantly crushing on her, along with Barry and Dick. But I don't think they're crushing on her so much because of her, but it's because they're just very enamored of the idea of dating a musician.
Yes, yes. They make 'em I think they say that, it's like, "I really wanna date a musician,"
Yeah.
type of thing.
You know,
So, the
and
idea of her is
yeah, they like the idea of like, oh, she'll put some of our private jokes in the liner notes, or, write a song. She'll like play me songs over breakfast in the morning. And it's not much about like, oh, I like this woman. I find her fascinating. She's cool. It's like, I want to date a musician. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So the next day we see that Laura goes back to Rob's apartment to get some of her stuff. She
Hmm.
thought Laura would. She thought Rob wouldn't be there, but he
Right.
is there, and they sort of have a talk about why she left and why they broke up. And she's basically
Right.
saying that like Rob is sort of the same person he was. He's not growing, and
Hmm.
she's not. They don't even talk about their future anymore or the future. He don't
Yeah,
even
and
talk about
we
his
find
future.
out a little about Laura's history, like because she used to be, this young hip clubbing person, but she got like this corporate lawyer job, so she's understandably gotten more conservative, and she's like, I can't go to work with my hair dyed pink, and that's probably one of the things that dates the movie a bit. Is like, I think today in 2024, you could be a lawyer, maybe get away with having your hair be pink.
You might be
Um,
able to, depending on the law
mhm.
firm, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. If you're, yeah, particularly if you're at like a young, scrappy law firm and doing that sort of thing, doing hip law,
Yeah,
um,
hip law.
hip law Tuesdays on ABC. Uh, Rob, he also gets a call from Laura's friend Liz, who's played by Joan Cusack, who says like, "Well, I just want to see how you're doing. I'm friends with you two. I'm not taking sides yet." Um, which is nice. Joan Cusack is like 100% the voice of sanity in this movie.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I really come to love Joan Cusack's character of Liz.
Yeah, I don't know, I always think Joan Cusack is super underrated. But,
She is. I mean, she's been nominated for an Oscar. Didn't she win an Oscar for In and Out?
uh,
I feel like she won for that.
she might have. I'll look into that. But like, I don't know.
Okay.
I still think like we as a nation need to put Joan Cusack in more things and
Yes.
recognize like we all like her and she's
Co-sign with a big ass John Hancock signature. Yeah,
yeah
Joan Cusack is underappreciated, underrated. She is amazing. We do not appreciate her enough.
yeah like everybody agrees she's amazing and awesome, but like she doesn't
Hmm.
seem to. Okay, all right. Oh wow. Okay, so she got nominated for.
Joan Cusack Oscar. Let's find out. What's the deal? What's the dealio?
She won an Emmy for her being in the TV show Shameless, Outstanding
Of
Guest.
course she did. Yes. Okay. That's pretty recent. Yeah.
American Comedy Award, Best Society of Film Critics Awards.
She's in Working Girl. She got
Yes.
like a lot of good notices for that. I think she's also in Say Anything.
Uh,
I think she win an Oscar for In and Out. Are you seeing that?
she was nominated for In and Out and Working Girl, did not win either.
Tragedy, tragedy. I don't know who beat her out both those years, but that is shocking. That is
I'm
shocking.
I'm
In
gonna
the
look
words
up
of
both
Joan
those times
Cusack.
right now, and we'll see.
Yeah, I bet whoever beat her out both times were pieces of crap.
Oh Jesus!
I don't know, but watch it be somebody I love now.
Uh,
So
okay, all right. What this is? All right, here we go. So in 1988, she was beat out by Gina Davis
Gina Devious, more like.
for The Accidental Tourist.
Okay, I've never seen The Accidental Tourist, so I'm sure Gina Davis is wonderful in it.
And then in 97, when she was nominated for In and Out, she was beat out by Kim Basinger for LA Confidential.
Oh yeah, kind of a dark horse there. Okay,
I did not see
all
that
right,
coming. Yeah, I remember watching that movie
yeah.
and liking it, but it's been a while since I've seen it.
Um, yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't begrudge either of those women winning their Oscars, but Joan Cusack is wonderful, and yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow, 97, Kim beat out Minnie Driver for Good Will Hunting, Julianne Moore for Boogie Nights, and Gloria Stewart for Titanic. Hmm.
Damn, that is a
Oh,
really solid set of nominations for
yeah.
Best Supporting Actress. Damn,
I mean,
that's a tough choice. Yeah,
yeah.
Kim Basinger was definitely the dark horse that year.
Yeah, I mean, Julianne Moore in Boogie Nights, she killed it in that role. I'm actually kind
She
of
did,
surprised.
she did. Another person who's like in this movie, just sort of a one scene wonder, is Alex Desire. I think that's how he says his last name, Alex Desire, as one of the regular customers at Championship Vinyl, Lewis.
Yeah, because like, he was in one of my favorite movies of all time, Swingers. And I was like, oh, it's the guy from Swingers. Oh
He's
shit.
in Swingers. He was in the 1990 TV show The Flash. He was like Barry Allen's lab partner in that, and he was
He's in Becker.
he was in Becker. He was the blind guy on Becker for years and years. And yeah, he's one of those people who pops up whenever I see him pop up in something. I'm like, hey, it's that guy. And I wish he popped up in more than just one movie or one scene of this movie.
Yeah, I kind of thought he would kind of be more of a supporting role, but like he literally is in
Mm-hmm.
just one scene, and he has like
Yeah,
a few cool lines about actually calling the guys out about being elitist music snobs and just like
yeah,
looking down on all the plebeians who don't know about music as much as they do.
yeah, yeah. Which is, and nobody knows as much as you do, and all the guys are like, yeah, and he's like, and you feel like underappreciated because nobody knows as much as you do. And they're like, yeah. He's like, it's just sad, man.
Yeah.
And he's, and yeah, he is another voice of sanity. He is also awesome. I wish there was more of him in this movie because I liked his character. I don't.
Ag- Agreed.
I think that character's in the book, but I can't remember for sure. But
Yeah, his character name is Lewis, I believe.
Lewis, yeah, yeah. I
But
also have a note here that says Barry is such an asshole, and I can't remember what that inspired. It might be the scene where the customer comes in and he's looking for the song "I Just Called to Say I Love You" by Stevie Wonder.
yeah, for his daughter,
Yeah, and he's
and
like, "Oh, it's my daughter's birthday," and Barry just like instead of trying to make a sale, he just decides to make fun of the customer for his musical taste.
yeah, it's like, oh, there's no way your daughter liked that song. Oh, and is she in a coma? She might like it then.
Yeah,
And it's just like, dude, what the fuck?
yeah, and it's like, okay, I get you don't like that song, but that does not give you license to shit on this guy, particularly when you are working in a business. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's one of those things where like he has this, this better holier than thou like version, in his mind, like
yeah,
that where he's like, oh no, that's the later '80s stuff that Stevie Wonder did is really
hmm
terrible. So you shouldn't like that. You should like the stuff he did in the '70s type of.
right,
And
right,
it's just like, but yeah, those are the type
and
of guys I was afraid to go. I was afraid I'd encounter in other music and other music
right,
stores.
right, yeah, and it's more important for him to be right and be superior in his musical taste than to help the customer, which again is his fucking job. That you are literally being paid for that. Like early in the movie, John Cusack goes, I can't fire them. I hired them each to like work like a couple days a week. They both started just coming in every day.
That was 4 years ago.
That was 4 years ago. Because like literally neither one of those guys has anything else going on in their life. So, and they're so insane, they make Rob look saner by comparison. So it's good. They serve an important function in the movie.
Yeah, I think at one point Rob says like, I hate this place. I'm just gonna one day I'm just gonna go berserk, trash it, and go work at a Virgin Megastore.
Right.
And I
Right.
think at
Which was,
that point I was actually working at Virgin Megastore when I saw
oh,
this.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah, this came out in 2000. Yeah, I was working at Virgin Megastore.
Yeah, yeah. So Rob gets another phone call from Liz, from Joan Cusack's Liz, and she says, like, well, I liked you two together. I hoped you could work things out. And, I don't think much of this Ian guy. And Rob is interrupted because Dick comes in to tell him, like, oh, Marie DeSalle came to visit the store. And then he goes out, says hi to Marie DeSalle. Then he goes back into his office and then he just screams at the camera, what fucking Ian guy?
Right, and then he remembers that there is a guy
hmm
in Laura's building named Ian Raymond or I
Right.
Raymond, and then
Right. Ray to his friends.
Ray to
Yeah.
his man. So his name is both Ian and Ray in a weird,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
But he knew him as Ray.
as
He was
Ray.
like, he's racking his brain trying to remember who the guy could be until he goes back home and he sees like mail, undelivered mail for I, Raymond, his former upstairs neighbor. And, we find out he's like just this new age douchebag guy who lived upstairs from them. And we see Rob late at night in the middle of the night and he remembers we used to hear him having sex.
Mm.
And then he of course, because your imagination goes wild, he's like, and he starts imagining Laura having sex with Ian, and he's like, there is no woman in the history of the world who had better sex than Laura is having with Ian in my head.
Yes, and then we see Laura and Ian, played by the great Tim Robbins,
hmm
just having all this tantric, sweaty
Yeah.
coitus whilst
Yeah.
to Barry White music.
Yeah. Yeah. Do 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 do. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they they real over the top with it. They're like red curtains behind them. They light it like it's a freaking porn film or something.
Yeah, they do.
And, yeah, it's kind of hilarious. And Tim Robbins, I just read on IMDb trivia that part of the reason Tim Robbins did this movie was they agreed to make him a custom wig for his little Steven Seagal ponytail, and he got to keep it after the movie. So
Ooh,
he and there was some other movie he had a custom wig made for him, and it said he still uses them in Halloween costumes to this day. So
tight.
good on you, Tim Robbins,
All
getting
right.
free custom wigs out of the deal.
Yeah. Hey,
Uh,
if you can get a job that'll give you a free wig out of it, you take that job.
exactly. Once again, a big thing for Mr. William Shatner back in doing Star Trek in the '60s. He uh, he had some custom hair pieces made for him on that show, and they would mysteriously disappear between seasons.
Oh,
Yeah.
you don't say.
Custom made for one man, Mr. William Shatner, and the producer was like, "Hey, Bill, do you know where this hairpiece went?" And he's like, "No, I have no idea. You should find those. I mean, what's the deal, guys?"
I have no idea. It
Yeah,
just disappeared.
it sounds like sabotage.
Sabotage. All
Sabotage.
roads lead back to Shatner, people.
This is what I'm saying. Yes. So
Yeah.
after Rob finds this out, he goes number 5 on my top 10 breakup list, or my top 5 breakup list. Jackie Alden. That was a casual thing. I was glad it ended. Um, so he's like, "Congratulations, Laura, you're number 5 with a bullet."
Right. And then he talks about how him and Laura
Yeah,
met. They met
yeah.
when.
Before we get into that, I should say there is more about Jackie Alden in the book, and she is
Oh,
a more significant relationship in the book. Rob, but it cuts out it really easily from a plot standpoint, so I totally see why they just did it as a throwaway gag in the movie.
oh, okay.
Um, he talks if you're interested in hearing, and I'm going to assume you are. Uh, your silence is consent.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. I. Please tell me more. Tell me more.
okay,
Did
okay.
it get very far?
Yeah. So Jackie Alden in the book, Rob, he hooks up with Jackie. Like he and Jackie, they both have other. They're both in relationships at a time, and they start having this sort of clandestine affair with each other,
Oh.
and it ends up like poisoning their relationships with the entire friend group. They become like ostracized from their friend group because of that, and so he learned a lesson in that, and he was being like a selfish asshole, and he paid the price for it, and then the relationship didn't last. And I think Jackie Alden ends up getting back together with her original ex too, if I remember correctly. It's been a few years.
Okay.
um,
Interesting.
but and he doesn't track down Jackie Alden again in the book, so very disposable from a plot standpoint. So I totally see why they got rid of that thread.
Mm,
um,
absolutely. Okay.
and then Liz's probably best scene in the movie, wouldn't you
Yes,
say?
I would say so. Because at one point,
Yeah.
well, we also learned how
Yeah.
Rob and Laura met. They lit because back when
Hmm.
Rob used to DJ and he was DJing at
Yeah.
a club. Uh, she was there partying. He makes her a mixtape, and they started
Right.
dating, moving together,
Right.
and they really had a good thing going. And
Right.
then Liz, like you said, as he's selling this, Liz comes in. He immediately screams at Rob, calling him a fucking asshole, and leaves.
Yeah. Well, she just goes, "Hey, Rob, you fucking asshole," and then she instantly calms down and then just walks out the building. No context, no nothing. Hilarious, because Joan Cusack is a fucking comedy assassin who nails it.
Yeah. Bang
Uh,
bang.
yeah, so great. And then Rob expands on that, and he's like, "Well, this means that Laura told Liz like one of 4 things, or maybe more than that, or maybe all 4 of these things." And
Woof.
uh,
Woof.
Rob slept with someone else while Laura was pregnant.
Oh boy.
That led to Laura basically having an abortion.
Oh boy.
Shortly after that, Rob borrowed 4,000 from her, and he still hasn't paid her back.
Oh boy.
And after all that, he told Laura he was sort of unhappy in the relationship and he was kind of sort of looking for somebody else.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So are these some of the asshole things that you were talking about before that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I would,
Okay.
because like I mean, after this, because up to this point, I feel like the audience is like, all right, Rob he has flaws, but he's
Hmm.
him and
I'm on his side. He's John Cusack. I have residual good feelings for him from Say Anything in Gross Point Blank.
yeah.
I am
So
rooting for him in this movie. And then
this
boom,
scene,
hits you with this.
yeah, this scene puts that to the test. Like
Yeah.
I feel like after this scene, maybe half the women in the audience are like, "Fuck this guy, I'm not watching the rest of this." Like I feel like at that's
Hmm.
this scene is like a real turning point where it's like, are you still with him after hearing all this?
But right after this, he of course puts all of these into more context, which gives you
Yes,
a little more sympathy or at least understanding for Rob because he's like,
yes,
yeah, I did cheat on her. I had no idea she was pregnant. She didn't tell me, and I didn't find out that she terminated a pregnancy until after the fact.
yeah. But I mean, he still did cheat on her though, which is
He
not
did
great.
cheat on her, yeah, and we don't really find out the circumstances of that. And
The
he's
money,
like, well, with the money, she had it, I didn't. And we have a flashback to her like basically forcing the money on him, and then he says like, I haven't paid her back because I haven't been able to. Her breaking up with me doesn't make me $5,000 richer.
right? And then he kind of it gives more context to the thing about how he said
Hmm.
he's not happy in a relationship and he's looking around, and it
Right.
was like they were at a point where they were both kind of not crazy about the relationship, and then they had to like talk, and then I think she said like, well, would you want to look at other people or look at
Hmm.
dating other
Are you
people?
thinking about it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then she said she was, and then
Yeah.
he said he was too.
Yeah.
Just
And he's like, it was a stupid lawyer trick, and I fell for it because, well, she's much smarter than me. Uh,
yeah, but still,
and
yeah,
yeah, and then after this, he says, "Look, if you think I'm an asshole, here's what you do. Think of the 5 worst things you've ever done in a relationship, and just list them out. Don't dress them up. Don't give excuses or additional context. Just list them out as plainly and as simply as you can. Who's the asshole now?"
yeah. No, it is true. I mean, I mean, kudos to Cusack for wanting to take on this role, just
Hmm.
because, like you said, it doesn't paint him in the best light, even after he sort of explains it and talks about his side of it. It's
Yeah,
like he
yeah.
still did cheat, and the money thing is like, all right, well, she kind of like she didn't force it on you, but she was just like, you take
Hmm.
this money and you just had to be able to pay it back. It's like, all right,
By the way, wouldn't it be great if her girlfriend breaking up with you did make you $5,000 richer?
that would be fantastic. That's a
I want to live in that world
that's a
personally.
dream. That's how I want to make
It's like,
my money.
it's
The
like,
old-fashioned
so,
way.
I'm sorry you got dumped. Here's your government check.
Your pension.
Here's your $5,000. Best of luck in your continued search for love.
Yes, best of luck in future endeavors.
Yeah, that's the world I want to live in.
Oh, that's the dream.
Um, so after this, Rob decides he's going to contact his exes, um, and he calls up his junior high girlfriend Allison Ashmore and finds out that she married the guy that she hooked up with right after Rob. She married Kevin Bannister.
Right. And they live in Australia now.
Yeah, and he talks to Allison's mother, who's like, yeah, Kevin was her first and only boyfriend, and Rob is so petty. He's like, well, no, I'm being written out of history here. I actually hooked up with her before Kevin.
Yeah, but
I
yeah,
was her first boyfriend, me.
yeah. But I mean, again, that shows how self-involved he is. It's like just
Hmm.
because somebody hooks up with you for a few hours doesn't mean you're like boyfriend girlfriend. But then again,
Right.
that's something you don't think about when you're that young, too.
Yeah, but it also just shows how much he's been carrying this with him for 20 odd years.
Yeah, exactly. It's been
Because Rob's like somewhere in his 30s, I think. Yeah.
yeah. Like he should have let this go a long time ago.
Right, right. But he's very relieved to find out that Allison married Kevin Bannister. He says, "This is great. This has got nothing to do with me." So he decides to look up the rest of his top 5, and we get a very random cameo.
Yeah, that was random.
Yeah. we get Mr. Bruce Springsteen in a quick little dream sequence.
Yeah, because I think at one point he's like, "Oh, I should revisit my top 5, like Bruce Springsteen." And then we
Mhm.
cut to Jersey's own Bruce Springsteen saying, "Oh, yeah, like, talk to these girls again. It might make them feel better, but it'll definitely make you feel better."
Right, right, yeah. Look them up, see how they're doing, wish them well in their life, and yeah, and it's cool, and it's just Bruce like jamming on his guitar a little bit, and just
Yeah,
talking with
I wonder how they
John
made that
Cusack.
happen too.
I don't know. I think there's something about that on the movie's special features. I don't have that trivia on me readily handy.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so apparently they originally wanted Bob Dylan for it, but Bob Dylan wasn't available. So I
Oh,
mean, Bruce Springsteen, not a bad second choice
not
though.
bad. I can't
Yeah.
do
No, I don't want to do it.
it. Busy. Ooh.
I got a thing on Thursday.
Again, people, we are delightful.
We we're delightful and we're great impressionists. Um, so he looks up his next chronological breakup. He looks up Penny Hardwick, who is now a movie critic. They go to a movie together. He says, he's a little irritated because she's got a flashpoint pen in the theater, and he finds that distracting. And there's this scene of them talking at the bar after the movie.
Yeah, this was wow.
Okay, who is it that plays Penny? First of all, because she fucking knocks it out of the park. Um, I gotta look her up real fast.
Uh,
Joelle Carter. Joelle Carter. I don't think I've seen her in a whole lot of other stuff, but she is fucking awesome. She is like another one scene wonder. She like fucking nails it. Um, and he lays all his shit on her, and he's like, I was hoping you could help me understand, like, why you didn't want to sleep with me when I was 16, and why am I doomed to be left? And she just kind of corrects his misapprehension. She's like, I did want to sleep with you. I was crazy about you, but not when I was 16. I was just not ready to have sex.
yeah.
And when you broke up with me, you broke up with me because I was, to use your charming expression, tight.
Oh boy.
I cried and cried and I hated you. And when that little shitbag asked me out and I was too tired to fight him off, it wasn't rape because I said okay, but it wasn't far off. Do you
Oh boy.
do you know I couldn't have sex until after college because I hated it so much? That's when you're supposed to have sex, Rob, in college. Now you want to have a little chat about rejection? Well, fuck you, Rob.
Yeah. See, and after that scene, after all that, Rob was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, I broke up with you. Oh, okay, that's great."
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, that's another one I don't have to worry about. So he's still only seeing this in terms of how it relates to him. She just basically confessed she was more or less date raped right after him.
yeah,
And yeah, and rather being horrified that at the part he played in it, he is like, oh, hey, yeah, no, this isn't on me. Oh, this is great.
yeah. Again, that's like another thing that like I feel like most of the if you were in a female audience, you'd be like,
Right.
"Fuck this guy." I hate him.
Yeah.
And
And
also,
this is
Joelle Carter.
Carter.
Like
Yeah.
I knew I recognized her from where. If you ever watch the show Justified, she played Ava Crowder.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah,
So
she looks real familiar. She looks a little like Rebecca Romaine Stamos.
a little bit, yeah. She's done like a bunch
Yeah.
of TV I've seen, but like
Hmm.
she was in a episode of Monk. But yeah, like I was a huge
Okay.
fan of Justified back in the day, and so when I
Okay.
saw her, I was like, oh yeah, that's Ava Crowder.
Oh, she has a part in American Pie too. That's weird.
Ooh.
I don't know who Natalie is, but okay. But
Oh,
she fucking kills it in this. Do you know who Natalie is in
I
American Pie 2?
think I gotta go back and watch it. I remember. I think she's one of the because like at one point Stifler hooks up with two girls at the same time. I think she's one of the girls.
Is she really?
I
Okay.
think so. I don't know. I was I was really this is it's not that embarrassing, but I was really a big fan of the American Pie movies back in the day.
Right.
Some of them maybe didn't hold
Because
up as well.
nudity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. Young man
You know.
that needs.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah. I think she was one of the girls that hooks up with Stifler, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Mm.
but I find that one of the most darkly funny moments in this movie.
Yeah.
Just because you think like, oh, he's finally realizing like he's been kind of a shit in his past relationships, and nope. I mean, it just like goes right over his head.
I mean, it does. I mean, he does realize it a little bit later, but the fact that he
Mhm.
doesn't realize it here, it's like,
Right.
wow,
When
wow.
she is telling him to his face, this is what you did to me. This is how it fucked me up for years after. I couldn't have sex for the entire 4 years I was in college because this thing I had right after you, this date rape thing, was like so fucking traumatic. Yeah.
Whew. Oh boy.
I mean, that's another thing I love about this movie is you get the feeling so many of these characters they're having their own lives off screen, you know. And I love it when you have that sense in the movie. You're just getting like a little peek into the other people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. This is. I mean, with all the relationships that happen in this movie, it's like it definitely paints it a little bit more like relationships being more complicated than the
Yeah,
average, movie would. I think.
yeah, yeah. It has some of the messiness of real life relationships. So next he looks up his ex Sarah Kendrew, the Lily Taylor character, and she's in a bad spot right now. She's like, oh, I'm on these antidepressants and they're not working. I might be losing my job, and she's in a real down spot.
Yeah. She's.
And and as he walks away, he says to the camera like, I could have maybe had sex back there, but and what better way is it to get over rejection than to sleep with the person who rejected you?
Yeah.
But he's still like at least a good enough person not to do that, not to take advantage of her low spot.
So yeah.
Just
So
for
he's not a total
he's not
just,
total shit.
but he's shit adjacent.
He's shit adjacent, yes. Um,
All right. So,
uh,
yeah, but then he also calls up Charlie, but
right.
he leaves a message for her because he sees Charlie as like, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet, because in his mind Charlie was this
Yeah.
amazing, fantastic woman that
Yeah.
like
And even though he was with her, she is still like very much the unattainable woman.
yes, absolutely,
Because he never felt like he was in her league.
right,
So
right,
he's like, yeah, I'm not ready for that. Um, this is around the time that Dick meets this girl Anna at the store, and we get sort of an insight as to everybody's different sales techniques in the store. Like Barry badgers customers into like, you don't own this record? How the fuck don't you own this record?
it's like you
And
don't own Blonde on Blonde.
right. And Dick has this gentle approach where he's like, oh well, here's why you should like this album. This is similar to this other stuff you like, and blah blah blah. So he's very academic.
Yeah, like Green
And
Day is a mix of The Clash and Stiff Little Fingers, stuff like that.
right. And he plays this track from Stiff Little Fingers, and like another customer who wasn't hearing their conversation, he's like, is this the new Green Day? And then like Dick and Anna have this little mutual eye roll moment, and it's like, Anna, you didn't even know like Stiff Little Fingers was a thing 30 seconds ago, and you're already like feeling superior to this other person. Like, oh,
That's
how do you not know Stiff Little Fingers?
that's how good it feels to feel like you're superior over somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a drug.
Yeah,
Um,
uh,
but they're so cute together, you
they
know.
are. They're very adorable. I like their little like kind of meet cute.
Yeah, they're adorable. I would watch a spin-off movie with Dick and Anna. Um,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
uh,
We also have a scene
and
where.
then yeah.
Well, I was gonna say we also have a scene where like there's some young punk skateboarders that
Mhm.
come into the store and try to steal some stuff.
Right. But also Rob sells technique. He's like, I'm going to sell 5 EPs from the Beta Band, and he just like plays this awesome song by the Beta Band, and everybody in the stores kind of groove into it,
Yeah.
and they're like, hey, this is really good. Rob's like, I know, and so that's his sales technique. So
I'm gonna say that
I
after
find it interesting.
yeah, and after I saw that scene, I did add the Beta Band to my Spotify playlist. So
100%. Yeah.
I was like, oh, the Beta Band. Okay.
The soundtrack for this movie is fucking amazing.
Pretty
And
fantastic.
yeah, and I got to give it another listen. Like most of the songs that are prominent in the movie are in the soundtrack, and I don't remember if they released a second edition of the soundtrack or not. But I mean, there are all sorts of cool deep cuts, and if you're any sort of music hipster, you will enjoy it. I think.
Yeah, I mean this and the soundtracks to Grosse Point Blank, like knocks it
Yep.
right out the park.
Yeah, yeah. So Rob stops these shoplifter kids, these skate punks. Um, they're like boosting a bunch of albums, and they've also got like a magazine about home recording and stuff. This, by the way, subplot not in the book.
Really?
This is original to the movie. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
All right, fair enough. Uh,
but that comes back into play later.
that comes back into play later. We cut back to Rob's apartment. Laura is there, and they're having another talk.
Packing up more of her stuff.
Yeah, packing up more of her stuff. She's just constantly kind of coming back slowly to the apartment to get more and more of her stuff. She confesses that she is staying with this Ian guy.
Yeah, because Rob he like hands her some of Ian's mail, and he's like, "You can take this with you." So he's like letting her know he knows in like the dickiest way he can.
Right.
And she's like, and he's like, "I had to figure that out myself, didn't I?" Because you after a breakup, you want to twist the knife.
You do.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's human.
It's human nature. Tell him that it's human nature.
Why? Why? Because they do it that way. I don't like that song much, but it is a very catchy song.
It's so beautiful.
It's not one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs. I'll just say,
that's an incorrect opinion, good sir.
It's no. Is it Pretty Young Thing or Sweet Young Thing?
PYT, Pretty Young Thing.
Yeah, Pretty Young Thing. I love that song. That's an underrated Michael Jackson song.
Well, that's another banger. I mean, as far as Michael Jackson's, I'm turning into Barry from High Fidelity here. I mean, as far as unappreciated Michael Jackson songs, there are a ton of them on his Off the Wall. Off the Wall, it's like has like some amazing bangers.
That's the one with I wanna rock with you.
Yeah. It's kind of it's like it's like his disco era stuff, but it's like really
it kind of is. Yeah.
Like Get on the Dance Floor and Working Day and Night. It's Off the Wall, the banger, baby.
Yeah, but it's overshadowed because he does Thriller and Bad right after. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was in a zone. Just those three albums alone.
He was. I mean, Michael Jackson in the late 70s, early 80s just hit machine.
My God.
But anyway, yeah.
But yeah. So Laura and Rob are talking more, and she basically says, I left because you weren't really doing anything with your life. You were just kind of in this.
Yeah.
It kind of ours.
You were unhappy. You were working towards getting happy, and I just didn't want to be around that. And and he's badgering her, and he's like, "Well, is there still a chance we might get back together?" And she finally breaks down and says, "Like, okay, fine. There's a 9% chance we might get back together."
Yeah, and and then at that point, also, Laura, I think Rob asked her, like, "Is he better in me in the bedroom?" And then
better in me? Did you say
what? Better than me.
Did you say bitter? Oh, you said better than me? I heard better
think
in
I did.
me. Okay.
I hope I did. Jesus.
Play it back, folks. Like hit that rewind button. Did he say better than me or better in me? Because if you said better in me, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm watching porn right now. I'm not. I swear I'm not.
I know you're not. I'm not hearing any background noise.
It's on mute. I have different browsers. So yeah, he says.
That's impressive multitasking, sir.
Hey, man. You gotta want it.
I mean, I owe you an apology. I didn't realize the extent of your game.
I'm like the computer tech guy in like a action movie, just like all two different screens. Like I'm almost in. I'm almost there.
You're Ned Leeds in Spider-Man: Homecoming. I'm looking at porn.
Yes. Exactly.
Anyway, so Rob finds out that Laura has not slept with Ian. She's like, we've slept together in the same bed, but we have not had sex yet. And Rob gets a boost from this. We cut to him like outside the apartment. He's just kind of like dancing because he's so happy. And he says, I feel so good that I go right out and I sleep with Marie DeSalle.
Again, another point where I feel like the female audience is like, fuck this guy.
It is a shit move. Especially, because he's still struggling with Laura potentially sleeping with Ian, and he never realizes or comments on the hypocrisy of him then going out on the same night and sleeping with another woman.
Yeah.
Which...
Again, they're not saying it's right. They're just saying
Mm-hmm.
it's what he does.
They are just presenting his behavior. Yeah, I don't feel like the movie is endorsing his behavior. But yeah.
Yeah. So basically, and then he goes back and he basically says that how this happened is he meets up with Dick and Barry at a bar,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
Lisa Bonet's
Maria's
character
there.
Maria's there, and then the two of them have this really cool conversation, and they're getting
Right.
close, and they go back to
They
her
bond
apartment.
over the Patrick McGowan show, The Prisoner, which is awesome. You should watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Although I do okay, this is my TV hipster side coming out. I do doubt how big of a fan Rob is if he's blanking on the name of Patrick McGowan.
I mean, it's a pretty memorable name.
It's a pretty memorable name, and he's in like practically every scene of the freaking show. So I feel like you're a fake fan of The Prisoner, Rob Gordon.
Ooh,
Yeah,
poser.
I'm calling you out, fictional character from a movie 25 years ago.
Poser,
Yeah,
fucking poser.
yeah,
Get out of
he's a
here.
poser. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love how he turns to Barry and he's like, "What was the name of the guy in The Prisoner?" And Jack Black just goes, "McGowan."
Right.
Because he's like half in the bag and a little pissed, and he's like, "How do you not know this, Rob?"
Yeah. Jack Black pretty much steals every scene he's in, I would say.
He does. Yeah, I mean, he could have gotten an Oscar nomination for this movie, man.
Damn straight.
He's so good. Yeah, he talks about how like they bond over the picking up stuff after a relationship, and she's like, "Oh, that's what my song Eartha Kitt times 2 is about." In the book, it's Patsy Cline times 2.
Ah, interesting.
But because it's Lisa Bonet, it's Eartha Kitt.
Yes,
So
because she's a black. Oh, Jesus.
She's a black.
So you gotta.
I'm gonna need a minute because she's a black.
Yeah.
I'm dancing around it. You just like, boom.
Damn.
That was really funny, Darren.
She's
Someday we will make a super cut of like you saying things I could never say, and we could probably do vice versa, and it would be very, very funny.
I can't wait.
It would get us canceled immediately, but it would be very, very funny.
Hot damn.
Because she's a black.
She's
See, I'm feeling white guilt now just for laughing as hard as I did at that. But look, you can't help what you find funny, man, and that was funny.
Thank you.
I lost my whole train of thought here now. Darren. Where the hell am I in my notes?
Okay. Well, so I got it. So at this point, after the morning after they hooked up, they're like, there's just something we did. We don't have to put too much into it. And
Maria's very matter of fact about it, and like he says, like, "Oh, I'll call you," and she just kind of goes, huh, "Sure," like she knows what that night was.
Yeah,
it's a one night hookup, and that's all it was. And she doesn't really feel any sort of shame or anxiety about it. She's just like, she's like, "Oh, we're not going the same way for the subway. Okay, well, whatever."
Yeah. And the moment that they both say goodbye, Rob walks down the street. The moment he leaves, he's like, "Hey, what did Laura mean when she said she hasn't slept with him yet?"
Yeah, this is the thing he starts obsessing on. He just slept with another woman the same night. And then he starts making harassing phone calls to Ian and Laura. He like tracks down where Ian is living now and starts making harassing phone calls. So he has learned absolutely nothing since he was doing the same thing with Charlie Nicholson like 10, 15 years before in college.
We're repeating patterns.
He is repeating patterns. He is being a shit ex-boyfriend. And
yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, like he's standing at a payphone in the rain again, like say anything.
As John Cusack characters are wont to do.
As they're wont to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, like calling Ian's place where he knows she's
right.
staying and like just constantly
Yeah.
harassing her. It's
And Liz calls him out on this. She says, like, you're creating this little unit against them. Now they have like this, it's them against you, and you gotta stop with this shit, Rob. It is insane. And
it
uh
is, yeah.
yeah.
It's not a good
And at
look.
this point, it's not a good look. It is not a good look at all. And at this point in the movie, he finally gets a call back from the great elusive Charlie Nicholson, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Woo!
And she's like, and she just says, like, so Rob, are you in or out? And he says, what do you mean? And she says, well, I've heard from a lot of ex-boyfriends lately. Are you going through one of those what does it all mean things? Because like if you're going through that, I really don't have the time or energy for that. I don't want to deal. She's like, you remember that guy Marco that I dated after you? And he's like, yeah, vaguely. And she's like, yeah, I heard from him a few months back, and he was going through one of those things. So I'm watching this. I'm like, Charlie is being cool. She is being 100% upfront about what she wants and what her expectations are. She says, like, I want to be friends. If you want to be friends too, that is awesome. That's cool. Let's be friends. But she's like, if you want to like unload all your karma on me and find it and reconstruct our relationship, I'm not on board with that. And
Yeah,
I'm like, she is being 100% reasonable.
she is. She is.
Yeah. And like, I didn't used to see that in this movie. And now I do. And I'm proud of myself that I see that
Look at
now.
you. You're growing. All right.
I know. This movie feels like I have grown because I recognize what a shit Rob is being for 80% of this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, it's something that kind of comes with age and just being able
Yeah.
to be just being able to see the other side of the story. Because again,
Well,
like Rob is a
yeah,
very
just,
flawed human being. His
yeah.
emotions matter more than anybody else's feelings, and it's all about like what the world is doing to him, and he's just not able to see outside of himself for all
Yeah,
that.
he doesn't have a lot of empathy. He's just so self-centered. He doesn't like other people are like telling him about their stories and he's not taking any of it in. And yeah, that's not the way you want to be. Be curious, not judgmental,
Yes,
Rob.
absolutely.
If only Ted Lasso had existed, he could have
Ah,
gotten through this breakup so much better.
if only.
If only.
Yeah, so after this, she invites him to the dinner party. He agrees to go.
Mhm.
And then we see that Ian has popped up and appeared in the record store. He's
Yes.
trying
Yes.
to.
Ian, played by Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins plays a great tool.
He is. He does.
He is good at playing an asshole.
Hmm.
But again, we're seeing him through Rob's eyes in the movie, so we just see him from like he's the tool, he's the new boyfriend, and he's got the stupid ponytail, he's got all the multiple earrings, and he's pretentious and he's new agey, he's got like a beeper,
Yeah.
and yeah, they just stack the deck so that you hate him as much as Rob does.
Yeah. But I mean, again, like all he's doing is saying, hey, you're calling
Hmm.
my house repeatedly and standing
Yeah.
outside my place. That's not cool.
Stop harassing me and stop harassing Laura. She deserves better. And Rob's like, I've stopped all that now. He says, you were there this morning.
Yeah. And again, like he's not doing anything. He's not being that much of a jerk. He's just saying, hey, could you not fucking harass my home and
Yeah,
the girl I'm
yeah,
seeing, please?
yeah. And he's like, I recognize this is awkward, and I'm not one of your favorite people, but and then we get these funny fantasy sequences of like how Rob wishes he responded to him. He's like, get your patchouli stink out of my store, and and then there's another where they go like full do the right thing on him, and
Oh
they like
yeah,
and Dick and Barry like help beat him up. They like slam a phone in his face, knock out some teeth, and they they,
yeah.
they crush his head under an air conditioning unit.
Motherfuckers get beat down.
Yeah. It's like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah, it's yeah, guys get in their feelings
Yeah,
and just want to beat up
yeah.
motherfuckers.
But I mean, I get that. We all have like little fantasy scenarios in our head of how we want conversations to play out. And then we see a fantasy for scenario, and then it cuts back, and then we see another fantasy scenario, and then we just see like Rob just kind of like wuss out, and then
Yeah.
Ian's like, well, think about it, Rob. And he just like walks out. And that's the last we see of Ian in the movie.
Yeah, no more Ian after that.
No more Ian, but
Interesting.
that's all. We just need Tim Robbins to come in,
Yeah,
knock act the hell out of a couple scenes, and then he goes home with his fake wig.
absolutely.
It's a good day's work for Tim Robbins.
Good day. Good day to be Tim Robbins.
Right.
Yes. Susan Sarandon's
So
lucky
then,
girl.
so then Rob goes to a dinner party at Charlie's, and it's full of all these rich, classy people who are way more money. We have way more interesting clothes and lives and everything than Rob.
Yeah.
And as he's at dinner, he says, like, I realize Charlie's awful. And
Yeah.
he's like,
he kind of realizing that like she doesn't really listen to anyone when they talk. She didn't really have that
mm-hmm,
greatest sense of humor and talk shit all
yeah,
night long.
right.
And like,
But
yeah.
something that struck me, I totally get that, where it's like you can take the blinders off of somebody and like, oh, they're not the great person I thought they were. But we don't really see any of that for ourselves. It's not necessarily the objective reality. And we know Rob's a pretty unreliable narrator at this point. So is what he's saying even true, or is he just like going the other way
I
now?
don't know. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, I mean, we
Because we just see Catherine Zeta-Jones just kind of pontificating to her guests, but we don't really hear what she's saying. And we just have Rob basically in voiceover narration saying like, oh yeah, she's awful. And here's why she's awful. And here's how she's awful. But we don't really know if she's awful.
yeah, it's like the same way we were told by Rob that she's this amazing woman in the beginning,
Right.
but we don't really see anything that sort of, supports that. And so now,
Well, I will disagree with you on this one
oh,
point.
okay.
The stripping on the staircase.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah,
That's
that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
that was pretty objectively awesome.
Woo!
That is what you want for a college girlfriend.
Hi, Chihuahua.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't know. Like watching this, I'm just like, Charlie seems perfectly fine. She seems awesome.
Yeah, she just seems way more mature than
Yeah,
Rob is, but Rob has to sort of kind of
yeah,
is just not able to meet her level of maturity. And we see that after
yeah,
Rob after everybody leaves the party, Rob flat out asks her, "Why did you dump me for
yeah,
Marco?" And she's like, "Oh
yeah.
God, I knew it."
And no, it's not like, oh God, I knew it. She like looks up in triumph. She's like, fuck, I knew it. She is like proud of herself because she called it right from the get go.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
And she's like, you are going through one of those, what does it all mean things. And then I love that she like immediately moves away from the couch to another chair.
Yes.
She's setting her boundaries. I am digging Charlie Nicholson in this viewing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, before I was like, yeah, Rob's right. Charlie wasn't all that. And now I'm just like, no, Charlie's kind of awesome, man.
Yeah.
From what we see.
Yeah. And then Charlie tells him flat out, like, Marco seemed more glamorous and sure of himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was less hard work, and he was just sunnier than you are, which is hard to hear. But
she's being very blunt, but he needs some bluntness.
Yeah.
And she's not cushioning the blow at all, but I think that's what Rob needs to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and maybe some of what Rob says is true. And maybe, she does do this thing where she's like, oh, is he more glamorous? And yeah, she's sort of like flighty, and I can see a little of what Rob is saying, but I'm just like, this time around, I was like, no, Charlie Nicholson seems like pretty cool. She's like, seems to have her life together, man.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's just not the life for Rob, and maybe.
Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah. He says like, I envy them and their money and all that, but I'm not really a class warrior. But each time I revisit this movie or reread the book, Rob is a little more of an asshole, which I find fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, but I think that's good though. If you see more flaws in Rob as you read it, I think that says more about you and like how you're growing as a person.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Course,
Maybe this, maybe it's like this weird sort of ego boost for me now. It's like, I'm so much better than Rob.
At least I'm not Rob.
At least I'm not Rob. Yeah. If you have it together more than Rob Gordon in this movie, I think you're doing pretty well.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, so then
okay.
Rob goes back to his place. He sees Laura there.
Hmm.
Laura finds a list of that Rob read said about the top 5 dream jobs he'd like to have.
Right, right.
And
And if I remember correctly, in the book, this happens after Rob and Laura get back together.
oh,
But I think it works really well here because it shows how Laura is good for Rob.
yeah, for sure.
Um, because his top 5 dream job list is very it's pretty absurd because he's like, oh, I'd like to be a writer for Rolling Stone between this year and this year, and she's like, okay, so you have all these jobs that are, if time and space were not considerations, these are what you would do. And then you have architect, 7 years training. And he's like, well, I did put it at number 5.
Yeah, and then
Because it's like a thing he doesn't even want to do. Yeah.
yeah, and then Laura says, "Well, wouldn't you rather like own a record shop or something like that than be an
Yeah. And he's
architect?"
like, yeah.
He's like, "All right, then let's cross off architect and put in record shop owner, number 5."
Yeah. And I love that because it shows that she cares about him. It shows that, like, your life is not as bad as you think. It's breaking you out of, because, like, he's in post breakup depression for most of this movie. And
Right.
depression is a motherfucker that lies to you.
Yes. Ooh.
And she is like, this is the objective reality. You love music. You own a record shop. You, in spite of yourself, enjoy owning a record shop. You are already working at something close to your dream job.
Yeah, I mean, owning a record shop is pretty cool in my eyes.
That is pretty cool, especially if you can make a go of it and
Yeah.
and
Hell yeah.
yeah, make ends meet and support yourself and put a roof over your head and have an awesome Chicago apartment. Yeah. Yeah, so I love that. I love that it shows her breaking him out of his stupid shit in his head. Um, yeah, and it shows how they're good together. And
Right.
that leads into like another one of my favorite scenes in the movie, which is really just a John Cusack monologue on this bridge in Chicago. Gorgeous looking scene,
Really nice.
where he just goes through the top 5 things he misses about Laura, and it shows that he's starting to grow as a person.
Yeah, he's slowly getting there, and he talks about like he misses her laugh, how she has character, misses her
Hmm.
smell. Just a
Yeah.
lot of like,
And he's like, she does this little thing where she can't get to sleep, where she rubs her feet together an even number of times and just quietly moans, and it just kills me. And you see he is still like head over heels in love with her.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
he's like he's finally stripping away all the bullshit and like
absolutely,
being real. Um,
absolutely.
great scene. Like an actor friend of mine, he actually used the scene as like an audition monologue for a while.
Oh,
I can totally see why. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great choice for an
nice,
audition monologue.
very nice.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. So then we get to Rob going to the store for work.
Hmm.
Dick tells him that Laura called for him, and
Yeah.
then he hears that they're actually in the store. They're playing the demo tape from the Skater Punk kids,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh wow, it's really good."
It's really fucking good. And like they hate to admit it because they find those kids so annoying, but they're like, shit, this music is good.
Can't deny
And
it.
yeah.
Yeah, and then Rob has an idea. He goes out to the skater kids. They're hanging out, across the street from the store, the place that just robbed stuff from
Hmm.
a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago. And he said, "Hey, is this your demo tape? I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I'll sell it in the store, and we'll split the profit."
I'll release it. I'm going to make a record label.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, and he's like, what's the name of your group? The Kinky Wizards. And they're like, what's the name of your record label? He says, top 5 records. He just comes up with it in the moment, which
Yeah.
is kind of cool.
Yeah. So it seems like he's starting to like maybe he'll do like an indie record label type of thing. He just started
He's
on the spot.
he's moving forward with his life again. He's been in this holding pattern, honestly, almost since his breakup with Charlie Nicholson.
Yeah.
Um, and kids, he talks about this a little later in the movie. He's like, I never really committed to anything in my life.
Yeah.
And in the book, he goes into this more. He's like, I didn't want to commit to anything because I wanted to be available in case Charlie realized her mistake and wanted me back.
Mm.
So yeah.
Wow.
So he always kind of had one foot out the door.
Yeah. Which
Um,
is what they say
eh,
in the film.
yeah, yeah. So he had. So after this, is like Rob calls Laura back. Laura's in a state because her dad died.
Ooh.
Suddenly, we don't find out much about it. Her dad had angina, which I'm not even entirely certain what angina is.
Me neither. But
I know it's a disease. It sounds kind of like the word vagina. So I'm going to assume you just spontaneously grow vaginas on your body until you die.
that sounds medically accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go with that.
Yeah. We're not doctors, people, but that sounds about right.
No, I'm a doctor.
A what?
I'm 100% a doctor.
When did this happen?
I got a degree online.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I told them that angina thing, and they're like, "Well, we don't need to hear anymore.
Okay.
You have a medical degree now."
All right.
Yeah.
So, listeners, if if you have something that ails you, go see Dr.
Yeah.
Trumbull here. He'll
Mhm.
patch you right up.
Right. Yeah. Just let me know your medical ailments.
Right.
I will give you a diagnosis that is exactly as accurate as the angina thing.
He accepts all medical. He accepts all insurance plans.
Right.
HMOs. Just go.
Mostly PayPal and Venmo, though.
Yes, absolutely. Zelle.
So, yeah, Zelle.
Or
yeah.
just some loose cash in a paper bag. He'll take that too.
Yeah. Gold bars.
Gold doubloons. Whatever you got.
Yes.
Spare change. Whatever.
Yeah. I'm not proud. Send me money, people.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It's my birthday. Send me money.
Yes. But yeah, so basically Laura invites Rob to the funeral because Laura's dad always liked him and he thought they were good together.
Yeah, and she never told her parents about the breakup because they were going through so much with her dad's health failing. And there's a great bit in the book about how, Laura is shattered by her dad, and she tells Rob, and Rob feels bad about it, but he's got this weird mixture of guilt and stuff, but he's not broken up about it. And then Rob tells Barry about it, and Barry is just, oh, bummer.
Yeah.
And Barry is like indifferent, and he's like, we go from shattered to indifferent in like 3 steps.
Yep.
And then later, these guys are like so clueless that he's like, that Barry's like, let's make a top 5 songs about death. That's our tribute to Laura's dad. That's the only way he can process this news.
Yeah, that's how they. Yeah, exactly. That's how they process their emotions.
Right. He was like, let's make another top 5 list about it. That's their reaction to everything.
Wow.
You feel like if Rob Stewart was still around when 9/11 happened, they were making a top 5 songs about the Twin Towers.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah.
That is 100% what they would do, right?
Yes. Top 5 songs about terrorist attacks. Jesus. Darker than that is darker than that's dark even for us, guys.
That is.
But kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you before with she's black, so therefore Eartha Kitt. But
yeah, of course. Hey, this is how we show our emotions, people.
This is how we're not right inside, so we process our emotions through making inappropriate jokes.
Respect the process.
You respect the process. So Laura invites Rob to the funeral because she's like, yeah, they would want you there. And he goes to the funeral. There's a random Penny Marshall cameo.
Oh, was there? I missed that.
Did you notice?
No.
Okay, Rob is sitting at the funeral. The camera is closing in on him, and Penny Marshall is sitting right in front of him. I don't think she's even like totally in focus, but you look, it is 100% Penny Marshall. Oh. So this movie has cameos from Bruce Springsteen and Penny Marshall.
What the fuck? I got to go back home. I totally missed that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know what that's about. I don't know how that came about, but Penny Marshall is there. I mean, I guess she's just friends with somebody. I'm scrolling through the IMDb trivia right now to see if there's anything about how and why Penny Marshall is there, because I want to know. And I'm not seeing anything about it. But
that is wild, man.
I don't know. Yeah. Why is Penny Marshall in High Fidelity? Okay, let's see if we can get to the bottom of this.
Okay. Okay. Well, so
all right, I'm not finding it immediately, so it will be a mystery.
Right. Some things are better left unexplored.
Yeah.
Yes. So basically, and then after the funeral, there's the wake, and Liz is there talking to some other people about Laura must be going through during this time, because Laura's really distraught.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we see Rob actually walking up to her and saying, I'm so sorry for."
Yeah, like Rob's kind of stewing when Liz is saying, like, well, she was having a tough time of it even before all this stuff with her dad, and it's bad when you putting all your energy into something and then you realize it's maybe the wrong area, and Rob is just like, hey, that's fine, you just keep on talking about me like I'm not even here, and Liz again gloriously calling him out on his bullshit, saying like, well, we were talking about someone else, Rob. We were talking about Laura. Like Joan Cusack is just not having it at this point in the movie.
Yeah, Liz has had it with him.
Yeah. She is just like, I used to be on your side, or I'm not taking sides, and now she is 100% Team Laura.
I get it, yeah. Like,
I get it, yeah.
yeah. But then she brings up the fact that, like, yeah, you never even really apologized to her for everything you did on your end.
Yeah.
Like,
And he goes up and he apologizes to her. And it's kind of ostensibly about, I'm sorry your father passed away, but he is apologizing for everything.
right.
For the first time.
For the very first time.
For the very first time. So he's shown more. This is like Scrooge at the end of A Christmas Carol. He's realizing everything he's done wrong, and he's trying to make amends.
Yeah, and then he leaves the wake, and as he's kind of having this epiphany as he waits for the bus in the rain, that like he never really fully committed to her. He always had one foot out the door because it's easier to commit to nothing, and but that kind of prevents you from thinking about your own future and continuing on with your own future. And he says,
because it really, that is an easy trap to fall into, is like, oh, if I don't commit, I won't get hurt. Because every time you commit to something, you are taking the risk of getting hurt.
Yeah. So if you don't
commit to a relationship, commit to a job, or even like admit, I want this thing.
Yeah. So
because you are expressing a desire, you're expressing a dream, and you're risking having your heart broken.
Yeah. But you don't get anywhere in life unless you have that vulnerability and take those risks. You're like, you can't get hurt
unless you take that leap of faith.
You can't get hurt, or you could lead to like some of the greatest things to ever happen in your life.
Yeah, you gotta be open to it.
Yeah.
And Rob realizes, I'm not doing this, and if I keep on this path, I'm going to be alone for my entire life.
Yeah. If you don't do anything with your life, nothing will happen to your life.
Yeah. And you got to work towards it. You got to be. You got to make active choices. He's been very passive.
Very much so.
He's just let things happen to him, and he is. Wow, we're getting deep.
Yeah, shit's getting real, yo.
Yeah, shit is getting real. But I think this movie has a lot of depth to it, which is part of why I love it so much.
Yeah. No, it gets in there. That is the reason I do I do enjoy this movie, because it does kind of tackle on some like really weighty issues, and really
if you can put up with Rob being a shit for 80% of the movie.
That's the one thing I feel like a lot of people are, once they see like the parts where he's like a real piece of shit, that turns them off. But you got to get past that to like really get to the goal, the good shit.
Right.
And I think it's worth it for sure.
Yes. And so Laura picks up Rob at the bus stop, and she's like, and he starts hiding from her. He hides in like this muddy flower bed to try and avoid her. But she spots him again, calling him on his bullshit. And she's like, will you just get in the car? and she says, like, I used your leaving as an excuse to get out of there. And she asks Rob, like, will you have sex with me here right now in this car? Because I feel horrible and I want to feel something besides this. And she's like, it's either us having sex or you putting cigarettes out on my arm. And he has a very funny line. He just says, well, no, I only have a few cigarettes left and I'm saving them for later.
Oh, boy.
So again, Rob's selfishness coming out.
Oh, Rob.
And she's like, well, it'll have to be sex then. And he's just like, well, yes. Yep. Okay. All right.
So they engage in, il flagrante delicto in the car.
Car coitus.
Automocoitus.
Automocoitus. Yes. If you want to get all Latin with it.
Autoerotic.
Yeah,
And
and they drive back to uh, Laura's parents' place, and like Cusack is driving now, which I thought was weird because he doesn't drive,
yeah,
and I was wondering like, okay, it's weird that he's driving her car. I mean, maybe it's just because she's still an emotional wreck, but maybe it's like if you want to get really philosophical about it, maybe it's because like it's symbolizing he's in the driver's seat of his life again or something.
yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. Am I reading too much into it?
No,
Maybe
no,
I
I mean
am.
that makes because like we don't see him drive throughout the entire movie, but I mean then again he lives in
Yeah,
Chicago, so having a car in Chicago,
it's got a good public transit system. Yeah, and
yeah,
he didn't even have like 4,000 to keep his store from going under, so he probably can't afford a car.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, but to see
Um,
him drive, yeah, that doesn't make sense. It would make more sense if to see her drive her car,
yeah,
but
but it's maybe he's just trying to do a nice thing because she's still like
just yeah,
she's in a state.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah,
yeah,
and he says, hey, go inside, be with your mom, which again, a nice selfless moment from Rob, and she says like, I think we should get back together. She says, I'm too tired to do anything but be with you,
mm,
which is kind of sweet and also kind of pragmatic
yeah,
because like her relationship with Ian is still very new. She's been with him for maybe a week or two,
yeah,
and yeah, she's just very comfortable with Rob, and they know each other. They know each other well. That there is a comfort level there,
right.
and at one point, he says like, "What about Ian?" She says, "Ian's a disaster."
Oof.
So she's already gotten tired of Ian, and she's just kind of running back to the comfort of being with Rob.
Yeah, so like so it seems like I mean, I don't know if this is the healthiest thing just to run back to an old
Yeah,
relationship just because you don't like the new one and you just went through this traumatic thing of your dad dying.
yeah, but at the same time, yeah, there are times in your life you need to lean on somebody. You need to retreat to the comfort of the familiar.
Yes.
And she outright says like, "Look, I know this isn't the most romantic thing, but there'll be romance later."
Yes. Lean on me
Um,
when you're not strong.
right.
I'll be your friend.
Yeah, yeah, but she's like saying she's being upfront about what she needs. She's like, I I want to be with you. I need to be with you right now. This is what I need. Are you in or out, Rob?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So
So yeah, so then they end up getting back together again. Uh
and we get a little montage of how they're in a better place right now. There's a scene in the book that I really like, which is kind of a callback to Rob's previous theory of what you like is more important than what you are like, and he mentions briefly in the scene we see them like having dinner with a couple friends, and there's a brief scene in the book where after they get back together, they go have dinner with a couple of Laura's friends, and he's having a really nice evening, and he goes and he's enjoying talking to them, and at one point Laura's like, go look at their record collection. And he's like, what are you talking about? I don't need to go look at the record collection. She's like, go look at the record collection. And he goes and he looks at it, and of course he's horrified by what he finds there. It's all this,
like
they're the,
like Limp
it's all the
Bizkit.
stuff that offends him as his musical snob sensibilities, and and like the husband comes along and he's like, oh yeah, you probably don't think much of that. We'll have to come around to the shop and you can set us right. And he kind of realizes like, I like these people. Their taste in music, it doesn't really matter. They're still good people. They're still people that I've already decided I liked.
Yeah.
So it really shows his growth, and I totally get why it's not in the movie, but it's a nice scene in the book. It's a nice little grace note towards the end of the book.
Yeah, no, I like that. I kind of wish they put that in there, but
Yeah, yeah. There are some other deleted scenes, and I know we're running long, but I love this movie so much. So
yeah, we'll wrap it up, folks. Don't worry.
yeah, we will eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, so Rob and Laura, they move in together. They're actually
Yeah,
getting along well and great at talking
yeah,
about their future. It's everything they wanted.
yeah.
And then we see that we see a couple things. We see at one
The
point
Last Temptation.
the last temptation this woman comes into the record shop asking, "Oh, hey, is
Uh-huh.
that the new Stereo Lab playing?" And she's this
Yeah,
very cute person who writes a music column for the local
yeah.
newspaper.
And by very cute we mean uh, Natasha Gregson Wagner cute.
Woo!
Um, yeah, Natalie Wood's fucking daughter cute.
Woo!
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again,
Hamana Hamana.
dead on casting. This is somebody that you would be instantly infatuated with.
Vodio Doe.
Yeah. I mean, particularly when she comes in, she's like, "Oh, you're so cool! I remember you from your DJ days, and you were awesome." And you're like, what's happening here?
What's happening here? What's going on?
And she's a music journalist for The Reader, which I think is a local Chicago paper, and she like interviews him, and yeah, he's kind of getting into it. He's like, "Oh, hey, I'll make you a tape." Which, and Laura knows because that's how they first got together. She's like, "Oh, this is your move."
That's the move.
Yeah.
And so that happens. And also another thing that happened is one day Rob is walking down the street. He sees a flyer for album release party for the Kinky Wizards, his band,
right?
With a surprise return of DJ Rob Gordon.
Right. And it's like dance music for old people. And then he comes home to Laura and he's like, "What is this? I didn't know this was happening." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I had the idea with Ian when I was with Ian, and it was so good that I was kind of resentful that I wasn't still with you. It might be why I got back together with you." So they're being kind of playful and they're teasing each other again, which I like. I should give us a shout out to the actress playing Laura. Ibegen Heli.
I just had it up.
How do you pronounce her name?
Hold on.
She's like Scandinavian, I believe.
I think like Denmark, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Wait, I'll find it. Like I just had the page up showing how.
Ibn Hili. So it's pronounced much more simply than I think, but there's H's and J's, and my American ear and mouth very intimidated.
Yes,
but yeah, she's great.
Absolutely,
she's great. She's charming. You totally see why Rob is still in love with her.
Absolutely.
So. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything besides this movie.
She's been in like a few other things.
Like
I think she was in High Fidelity, From Denmark. What's one of my laptop? Oh, The Emperor's New Clothes. She was in.
Okay.
A Beautiful Curse. Yeah, she's like been a bunch of Danish.
She's winning in Foreigners.
Wow,
she's been in a lot of foreign films.
Yeah. All right, so her name is pronounced Iben Yale.
Iben Yale.
Yes,
Iben Yale. So it's like HJEJLE. Iben Yale. Yeah, she's great.
All consonants, no vowels.
Yeah, she's got like 3 E's for 2 names.
Yes,
which doesn't seem like enough. Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, yeah. So like Rob is kind of horrified by this whole idea of the event. He doesn't want it to happen. But again, it's a thing where like Laura knows how comfortable he could get in being in his rut. So
she's pushing him. She's pushing. She's giving him like a sort of a friendly push to like, you can be more than you are. And you were really happy when you were DJing. You should get back to DJing.
Yeah,
and
because it's easier just to stand by the sidelines and be a critic of art, but like to actually put yourself out there and put your own art out there and be vulnerable like that's a risk. That takes a lot more bravery than just to be somebody sitting on the sidelines just critiquing everything, saying everything's dumb.
Right, and he sort of apes what she says to him in his interview with Caroline, the journalist. And she asks him like, "Oh, well, what are your top 5 favorite records?" This is the question that Rob has been waiting for all his life. And I think in a deleted scene they expand on this, where he kind of freezes up and he's going through all these variations, and he's constantly calling her to suggest changes. Because his obsessive nature is just getting the better of him.
Yeah, no. If you ask me my top 5, if you ask me my top 5 favorite albums, it will change within hours of me giving you the list.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. Yeah. So Rob is making a mixtape for Caroline. There's a great scene where Laura comes home and he's like, "Oh, and he tries to play it off like it's not a big thing, but like Laura knows that's his move."
Yeah. She's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. She just kind of quietly is like, "Oh, okay. So that's what you're doing."
After all we just went through, now you're doing this. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it's like, it's a very grass is always greener type of thing. And he realizes like he's repeating this same pattern. He says, like, I've been thinking with my gut since I was 14 years old. I've come to the conclusion that my guts have shit for brains. And yeah, he realizes like what he's doing. He's going to break the pattern. He's like, I'm going to keep jumping from rock to rock the rest of my life. And so he goes the other way and he like proposes to Laura.
Yeah, which is well, no, I think he said like, "Would you mind, or what do you think about us
Mm-hmm.
getting married?" And then
Mm.
Laura's like, "After."
It's the most half-assed proposal ever. Yeah.
So what do you
Yeah.
think? You
100%.
want a maybe?
Yeah. And she out rightfully laughs at him. She's like, okay, it was like literally 2 days ago you were making a mixtape for that woman from the Reader.
Yeah,
Forgive me if you don't seem like the safest bet right now.
right. But then he
I
actually says some really nice things and really gets into it about how
mm-hmm.
like he's been thinking about it, and like he's kind of tired of all the girls he's been chasing. Like all those girls are fantasies; they don't exist. He's
Yeah.
kind of tired of fantasies, and he's tired of everything, and he knows he's grumpy, but he never gets tired of
Yeah.
her.
Because he has to decide between idealizing that new relationship versus making a commitment to somebody and getting into the nitty gritty with it. And he uses like the metaphor of, you know, like not all of her underwear is exciting.
Yeah,
Like he's like, you have lingerie, and or you don't have like exciting lingerie. And she's like, I have lingerie. He's like, yeah, but you also have like the old pair of cotton panties that have been washed a million times that like hang on the shower rod.
yeah,
And that's kind of a metaphor. Like, in a real relationship, at some point you have to get real with a person, and you can't like always be your best self.
yeah. No,
But
absolutely. And I think he's starting to realize that, where it's like, yeah,
mhm,
like just try to be like hopping from this what I think will be the perfect relationship that will make me happy and live out all my
right,
dreams. Like that's never going to happen because people aren't
yeah,
perfect. Like
yeah, and Laura outright says, she's like, yeah, don't make me happy. Don't make me happy. Make yourself happy. That will make me happy.
yeah, and that's
You know,
something he's never, I guess, considered before.
yeah, you can't count on a relationship to solve all your problems. You gotta work on yourself and yeah, do that, and then you'll be a better partner for the person you love. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a talk they should
Uh,
have had a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like this is stuff they should have said to each other years ago, and they would be in an even better place in their relationship, or a more advanced stage of their relationship.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I don't know. Do you feel like they're going to go to the distance now?
Um, hmm. I mean, I want to say yes, but
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I could see it going either way.
I can see, yeah,
Yeah,
I really could. Like, it seems like because well, at the very end, we're at the album release party, and we see like Rob is super nervous about the band because also Barry's band is playing at the
yeah.
end.
Barry forms a band over the course of this movie, even though he doesn't play any instrument,
Yes, so
and he's had a sign up in the store for ages saying like, hip young gunslingers wanted. Uh, and then this guy in the store like sees it and invites Barry to join his new band,
yes, Sonic Death Monkey.
Sonic fucking Death Monkey. Rob very reluctantly introduces him because they're like opening the party.
Right.
Um,
And Rob's very nervous. I mean, he's not nervous when he
mhm.
DJs a party because like that's something he's done before. But like
Yeah,
when the band actually goes on and plays, he gets very
he's like,
nervous.
please stick around. You're here to hear the new band. He basically doesn't want to have Barry's band play because he's sure they'll be hideous
And
because Barry's like all talk.
yeah, and it turns out it's not. We see Jack Black pop out as
Hmm.
Barry Jive and the Uptown Five, and they're singing Marvin
Hmm.
Gaye's "Let's Get It On."
And this is a moment that probably doesn't work quite as well as when this movie was originally released. Because, like, I was coming into Jack Black pretty cold when I first saw this movie. I did not know Jack Black. I had never heard Jack Black sing.
Mm,
So it was as startling to me hearing Jack Black have this amazing singing voice as it is to the characters in this movie, where, he just starts up, I've been feeling,
yeah,
and everyone's just like, wait, what? It's like that woman who came on, was it America's Got Talent? And
oh,
sang the I Dreamed a Dream. What was her name?
Sarah something.
So, yeah, something like that. And she was just like this frumpy looking housewife, but had an amazing voice. That's kind of what it was. It's like, wait, holy shit, he's good. And now, of course, because Jack Black is known and so much of his identity is known as singer with Tenacious D and all that, it doesn't have the same impact. But
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I you know, but it is what it is. I mean, Jack Black got more famous. What can you do?
Yeah, that's very true. That's true. But yeah, his performance is like really good. It brings
Hmm.
down the house, and
Yeah,
it does well. And then at the very end of the show, we see, or the very end of the movie rather, we see
yeah,
Rob making a playlist for Laura with stuff
yeah,
that she'd like and stuff that would make her happy. And for the first
yeah,
time, he can see how that's done.
yeah. So like the Rob of even just a few months ago, he'd be like, "Oh, this is stuff you should be into,"
Yeah.
and now he's like, "No, I'm going to make stuff that I I know you will enjoy. I'm going to put Marvin Gaye and Art Garfunkel on this mixtape together."
Oh yeah, that one line
Um,
that they said was crazy. Like how they're at the
yeah,
record store saying, "Oh, you like Art Garfunkel and Marvin Gaye? That's crazy. That's like saying you support Israel and Palestine." I was like, "Ooh,
yeah, and she's like,
timely."
"No, no, because they, Art Garfunkel and Marvin Gaye both make pop records." You know? Again, I love watching like a smart woman call a guy in his bullshit.
That
That is
is
fun to see.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why when you originally said like, "Do you think they'll go the distance?" I
Yeah,
honestly don't know if he continues growing and becoming a better
yeah,
person and doesn't kind of fall
yeah,
back on his old habits, then yeah, I can see them going
yeah,
the distance. But like, it all depends on that growth, man.
yeah. He's a fixer upper.
Yeah, he's not moving
Yeah,
ready.
and then we close with an amazing Stevie Wonder song, which
Mm,
which makes up for them joking at his expense early in the movie.
yeah,
Is you know,
I
I
believe.
think yeah, I think the song is just called "I Believe," but it's like it's a really lovely song. It's just I believe when I fall in love with you, it'll be forever,
It's a beautiful
and
song. Like,
it's a gorgeous song. And like every time I finish this movie, I'm like, shit, I need to listen to more Stevie Wonder, man.
I mean, it's Stevie Wonder. The man's a fucking icon.
Yeah, yeah. And like if you think of him as like, the cheesy stuff that he did in maybe the mid 80s, like I called to say I love you.
Yeah,
You got to go back further. It's like what you were talking about with Michael Jackson Off the Wall earlier. It's like
right.
go back, dig for the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Music of My
Yeah.
Mind, Talking Book. Those albums are
Hmm.
they slay, as the kids say.
Yeah. 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 So great stuff. Great movie. I think it still holds up beautifully.
I do too. I think it's a strong film. Again, I mean, I don't know. It has some stuff that's like maybe like a lot of audiences might be turned off to, but I think it's just
Hmm.
because the way the character is played, it feels like somebody you kind of know, like somebody who's
Yeah.
maybe the self-involved, but is trying to be a better person and is trying to
Right.
break out of their cycle. Like somebody
Yeah.
who's like starting to realize, "Oh, I might not be the hero in my story, so let me try to get out of this just so I can find some happiness in
He
life."
is experiencing growth. He is making an effort by the end of
Yeah,
the movie, and he was not really making an effort at the beginning of the movie, which is
yeah.
nice. We talked before, like I watched it this time on DVD. We watched it on streaming. There are like several deleted scenes on the DVD too, and they're all interesting to watch. My basic feeling on deleted scenes is usually I watch them and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I totally see why that was edited out. Um, there's one scene with Harold Ramis where he makes a cameo as Rob's father in sort of a in like another sort of dream sequence,
Wow.
um, where it's like Rob kind of fantasizing, like wishing that he could ask his dad about like how did you deal with this stuff, and Harold Ramis, great casting as John Cusack's father, by the way, just saying like, you know, in my day, the good fuck wasn't even invented yet. um, and Harold Ramis is great. There's another interesting scene with Beverly D'Angelo as this woman who calls up Rob at the store, and she wants him to buy her record collection, or more accurately, her husband's record collection, because her husband just uh, skip town with like the young friend of their daughters.
Yikes.
So yeah, and he has this extensive record collection. Everything's like perfectly preserved in the sleeves, and he's got all these obscurities. And her husband has instructed her to sell the record collection and send me the money, send me what you get for it. And so she is trying to sell it for pennies on the dollar. She's like, give me
Nice.
$20, the whole thing is yours. And we're talking like hundreds of records, all these rarities.
Excellent.
And
Oh,
and Rob, he's hitting the mother load as a guy who owns a record store, but he's just like, I can't do that to another collector.
oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
then he's like, okay, let me at least buy this one. I'll pay you what they're worth, and you don't even have to send him. And she's like, no, I want to be tough but fair. And they have this opposite negotiation. And it's a scene that's in the book too. I think it's based on this old joke
Okay.
of like the wife kind of screwing over the husband because she's been done wrong. Um and he eventually like buys like just one single from her for like, and he's like, I'll give you $20 for it. And she's like, I won't take a penny over over $5. So they're like negotiating at opposite sides. And it's a good scene, but I can totally see why it was cut.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's some other things too. Something the last time I think I went through this movie, I really realized what a period piece it is now.
Oh yeah, because
Um,
everybody's talking on like landline telephones.
Everyone's talking on landline telephones. Even the lawyer who's making like 60 to 70K a year, she doesn't have a cell phone. And it's like still a pre-digital music age. I don't think Napster's a thing yet, and
No.
CDs were the norm, and we didn't have the vinyl revival.
Oh yeah. Is that
Um,
one point Ian has his pager goes off when he's talking to Rob?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They're making mixtapes, and because the book was written in 1995, the movie came out in 2000, and it was just like, wow, it is literally a period piece now.
Yeah. It is. It really is.
And like another thing that dates a film, if it was made today, Rob could just look up all of his exes on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah, that's that's another thing too. He like he goes to like the yellow pages to get most of his
Yeah,
girl's phone numbers and whatnot.
and apparently there was a recent interview with Nick Hornby where he was talking about how Rob's life would be after the movie or after the book, and he said his world would come crashing down shortly thereafter because the age of digital music started. Like Napster and file sharing and all that would be a
Yeah,
thing, and that had to cut into his sales. So it's
yeah,
like,
that's
ooh, did his shop stay afloat?
I
Did
I can't see it. I mean, there are some record stores still around that kind of cater
yeah.
to the purists out there, but
I mean, he was already catering to the specialty collector market, so yeah, maybe he could have made a go of it. I mean,
maybe
there are still stores like that around. There's
there
a,
are.
there's a great store in Edison, New Jersey called Vintage Vinyl,
Ooh,
which I've been to a couple
I gotta
times.
check that
Which
one out.
great place to find obscurities, like we were talking about with other music. Um,
Yeah, far out.
so yeah. Um, okay. Should I get into it now? I know we're running long, but
You could. I mean, we can make this like bonus content, or we could talk about it now. Sure.
maybe we could get it, make it bonus content. Yeah. I'll let that be your call, Frank. So okay. So this movie came out in March of 2000, January 2000. I had a breakup with the woman I was seeing at the time, and I want to keep this confined to like talking about my shit. I don't want to get her into her shit
Okay.
because that's not right.
Okay.
She
Yeah.
doesn't deserve that.
Your side of the story.
Exactly. Um, so we were doing a thing. I took it harder than she did. She initiated the breakup, I will say.
Okay.
And then I had to. She kind of put it out there, and then I had to like pull the trigger on it. But I wasn't. If it were up to me, I would not have done that. And we were doing that thing where we were like attempting to be friends after, and I
Uh oh.
I wasn't quite there yet. If it were up to me, I would have just been let's get back together. I thought this was a relationship that was going to go the distance.
Okay.
So she ended up being like my Charlie Nicholson for a few years.
All right.
So one of the things we were trying to do during this time we were trying to be friends was we were going to meet up and see this movie together.
Okay.
And I think I had these fantasies in the back of my mind, just like, oh, we'll see it, and then she'll realize that she should be with me after all, and then we'll get back together, and choirs will sing, angels will,
yes,
all that.
Stevie Wonders, I believe, will play in the background.
Exactly. But we had a miscommunication. Now, at the time, she had a cell phone. I still did not have a cell phone in March of 2000.
Okay.
So I was a bit of a late adopter to the cell phone thing. So we didn't make it clear, or I didn't make it clear when we were making the plans, like which theater we were going to. She thought we were seeing it at the theater near me. I knew I was planning to see it at the theater near her. So I drove over to her place. She drove over to mine.
Oh.
And we missed each other.
Damn.
So, and again, no cell phone on me. So it's not until I get home, I hear a message on my machine. I think I found a phone somewhere at like a local restaurant or a payphone or something like that. And I said, like, because I get to her apartment, she is not there. I think she is standing me up.
Okay.
And it's, and I go Rob Gordon and I give her a call and I was like, I hope you're not standing me up, because if you do, I'm going to be really pissed off.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And that was the gist of the message that I left.
Okay.
So, and then I get home and there's a message on my answering machine where she's like, I hope you're okay. I don't know where you are. I hope you're not dead. And she's saying it with a little bit of a laugh. And, I get this. I feel like, 2 inches tall now.
Oh dear. Oh.
And then, and then I call her and we touch base and it's like, okay, well, we missed the showing that we were going to go to. Should we try this again? Should we see a later showing? And it's like, no, left it well enough alone. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to go get drunk now.
Yay.
Yay.
Alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Exactly. So, years later, we run into each other. We're Facebook friends again.
Okay.
She told me years later, she was teaching a class, and I forget what type of class it was. But she was kind of emphasizing the importance of communication. And she told this story from her point of view.
Oh, wow.
And she talked about the message that she left for me and the message that I left for her. And then she asked the class, which one of those messages would you have rather left? And she told me this, and I was like, oh, great. I'm the bad example in your story. Thanks, hon.
You're part of a class lesson now.
Yeah, I'm the bad example. This is what you don't want to be. Don't be like John.
It's like Goofus and Gallant.
So I was like, okay, well, I see where you're coming from there. Okay, I can't really begrudge you that. It's good, sir. You want to know the kicker, though?
What's the kicker?
Okay. She got married a few years after we broke up.
Okay.
She got married to another guy, a guy I think I had met in passing while we were together, because it was like someone she had known for a long time, and I think she'd even dated him a bit before me. And she eventually got back together with this guy. Guy's name? Ian.
Son of a bitch!
Yeah.
Wow.
That's something, right? That's a weird coincidence.
Kinda, yeah. Did you?
And I will say, I had met the guy since I met him and got to know him a little bit. We were at the same wedding.
Did he smell like patchouli?
He did not. He is not like the Ian in the movie at all. Very nice guy. We went up to the bar together at one point. He was like, John, let me buy you a drink.
Oh. So you didn't smash?
Lovely guy.
So you didn't smash an air conditioner over his head?
No, nothing like that. And it had been enough years that there wasn't any real awkwardness or anything like that. So her Ian, perfectly nice guy. They are, as far as I know, still together, still very happy. I'm still Facebook friends with her. We don't talk much because we're exes, and it's a lot of water under the bridge. But
Okay.
the fact that she ended up marrying an Ian after the high fidelity thing, it played into our breakup. I kind of love the irony of
That
that.
is wild, man.
It's a wild story,
It
right?
is, it is. It's wow, yeah, so this movie
Yeah.
hits you on many levels.
It hit me on many levels. It really spoke to where I was in my life at the time, because I was Rob Gordon. I just been through this, at the time, devastating breakup, and it was a what does it all mean thing. Um, and actually, when I posted about this on Facebook, um, she actually left a comment and like kind of apologized for some of her behavior at the time. Uh,
Okay. Wow.
she's, and again, I don't want to say more because that's getting into her shit. And um, but it was like, okay, all right. So yeah, I have a weird relationship with this movie. Maybe not that weird anymore, but because I think a lot of people have seen this movie. It because it speaks to what people go through in breakups.
Yeah,
And I think particularly guys.
yeah, especially yeah, it definitely feels like definitely a guy movie. Hopefully, I mean, it
Hmm.
seems like this movie kinda helped you grow and learn from your
Hmm.
mistakes, and hopefully it'll help other people learn and grow from their mistakes as well.
I think so. There's a great YouTube channel called Cinema Therapy,
Yes, I watched
and
that.
it's yeah, and they go through movies. It's like these two best friends from college. One is a therapist and one is a filmmaker, and they go through movies and they analyze it from a therapeutic point of view of like, this is what this character is doing well, this is what this character is doing badly. And I don't think they've covered High Fidelity. I feel like we've essentially done a cinematic therapy episode with this movie,
I think we
but
yeah, we did their job for them.
we did. I want to look them up on YouTube now because I haven't watched one of their episodes in a while. But it's great if you love doing deep dives into movies and you like discussing therapy and analyzing movies and that, right. Check out Cinema Therapy on YouTube. It is a great channel.
It's pretty
So
yeah, it's pretty solid. And yeah, we also
yeah.
reached out to our fans on Twitter about this movie, and we did get a tweet back from our good friend Boardman Gets Paid about this.
Oh, okay. Let's. I haven't looked at the comments lately, so let's see what the folks had to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. Boardman.
What a Boardman Gets Paid have to say?
Salutations, nerds. Hope all is well. Would like to give a happy birthday to our friend John. Hope everyone is having a good summer. Still top 5 in my favorite podcast. Love you guys. Keep up the great work.
Oh, well, thank you, Boardman. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you, Boardman.
That's very nice. Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I haven't technically reached my birthday yet, but this has been a great way to celebrate. I love doing deep dives into movies. I love talking about movies that I love in particular, and I love talking about movies with my buddy Darren in particular. So
Yay, that's
yeah,
me.
that's great, and I'm having a pretty good summer so far.
There we go. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess
So
that's the episode, I guess. Wow.
I think so. I think so. So shall we get into what we're doing next week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So next week, as many of you know, we had the comedy world suffered a loss with the
Hmm.
passing of the great Bob Newhart, who
Yeah.
unfortunately passed away. And so we decided, well, we should do something on this podcast to commemorate his life. So we're gonna
Right.
go into the archives, go on to the old Peacock, and talk all about the episode he hosted back in 1995. Bob Newhart episode.
Right. He hosted SNL twice, like once in I think it was 1980 and once in 1995.
Yes,
So we're doing the 1995 episode.
absolutely, yes. So
So
with
and which I don't remember much about. So it's going to be. I think part of it is going to feel new to me, even though I would have watched it back in the day, and part of it'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this.
yeah, I think I mean, because like after when he passed, like people were kind of sharing a bunch of stuff about his
Hmm.
life, and a lot of because we follow a lot of SNL podcasts, a lot of people were kind of sharing. some sketches he was in. There was one sketch where I think it's just him talking to the
Mm-hmm.
camera, which, I mean, that's
Yeah.
something. I mean, SNL does that from time to time, with like Christopher Walken and the Continental, but like still, it's rarely done. So that's like
Mm-hmm.
one sketch that was kind of pretty well talked about. And also at the end, like I loved how when they were saying the good night, you could see Norm Macdonald asking Bob to sign one of his albums, and like him and Chris Farley were like kind of geeking out over it as
That's awesome.
so like things like
Yeah.
that kind of warmed my heart. So yeah, we're gonna talk about it. The episode of SNL host Bob Newhart, 1995.
Who's the musical guest? Do you have that
Yes, Des
offhand?
Desiree. Remember her?
Desiree? No, I don't think I
You
do.
gotta be
Desiree.
fast. You gotta be.
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember that song. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, oh yeah. So Bob Newhart hosted.
Is it "Love Will Save the Day"? Is that
I
it?
think so. You got it.
It's something will save the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bob Newhart hosted on May 10th, 1980, and again February 11th, 1995, and that's the one we're gonna talk
Ooh,
about.
Valentine's Day show.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So we'll check that out, and yeah, it's nice to commemorate the late great Bob Newhart, who is just freaking amazing, and we'll talk about him more next week.
Absolutely.
So that'll be next week. We'll see you then. Thank you for sticking with us this long. So we'll be back next week talking about Bob Newhart from 1995. But until then, nerds out.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.